Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana Live. You found us at whatever podcast app you are listening to us on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give us a nice review. And of course, it's Sunday, 2 p.m. So we are
live on youtube.com/@PoisonRanaPod. Hello, YouTube room. Hello, Tadpoles. How we doing?
Yes, I know it is Sunday, February 9th. Don't know what else you could be doing today. It's kind of a chill day, just like nothing going on. It's snowing.
You know, just make sure those wings are fully defrosted. Get a nice seasoning on them. Get them marinating. Get them all tasting good, because in a few hours, you're going to be watching some football, I'm sure. Get those bets in.
That's what today
Over,
is.
under, 119.5 seconds, the national anthem. What are we saying?
How do I put a bet on if we'll see the actual corpse of Drake be pulled out live on stage during halftime today?
As I'm sure I say every year, you need to sign up to a betting account to start with. But yeah, there's wackier bets. I'm sure there are some Drake props out there for today.
Some people think he's showing up. We could be dated by now. They could shake hands on the show and call it a piece. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen. But yes, it's Sunday. We're going to chat all about the wrestling going on this week. So by the time you're listening to this, maybe the Super Bowl has already happened. Therefore, go Birds or go Swifties. I'm not quite sure how that works, but either way, happy football, happy Super Bowl, happy Kendrick or commercials day. But we're going to chat about some pro wrestling, and we're going to chat about some WWE and AEW. Quick plugs here. Check out our patreon.com/Poisonrana. $5 a month to get access to all the podcasts that we do, including our Rumble 02 review that we just put out. Plus, The Champ is Here. Episode 6 is coming out this week. Davie, this is a big one that you have put together. I don't know what reign this necessarily is, because I haven't done my homework.
Well, it's episode 6.
So no, but I mean, I don't know, how he wins. Episode 5 did me in for a doozy with the WrestleMania 25.
Oh, Vicky Guerrero love triangle, yes.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure if my memory can necessarily pinpoint what exact goes on at this reign. But.
So we're now entering the Randy Orton, John Cena feud. We're back to that one. Right. There's a little bit of Batista sprinkled in as the draft has just happened. And this one has 2 pretty big matches between Cena and Orton. Okay. We have the I Quit match from Breaking Point, and which I believe is I've never seen this pay-per-view, but looking at it, it's
on Netflix, so
full of submission matches, I Quit matches. Yeah. That was kind of the gimmick. Wouldn't mind seeing that again. That sounded pretty interesting. And their first Hell in a Cell match. So 2 big matches there. Obviously, we'll be talking about all the promos from Raw leading up to these matches, how Cena wins the title, how Cena loses the title, and how badly a lot of the TV has aged normally on this show.
Yeah, they usually do, especially around that PG era. But we're going to be joined by some guests as well. Am I not mistaken? Rich Fan will be joining us.
We've got Rich Fan and Will Cooling from The Torch chatting all about this. And Rich Fan recovering from his foot/ankle injury. So felt like it would be a good time to get him on. I'm sure he needs some stuff to watch. When he's not watching his Marvel stuff for MCU later, a bit of old John Cena. And Will Cooling as well, who I think we've had on one of our game shows, but we've never actually done a show with before. So I'm looking forward to that. And he's actually said that the I Quit match is a bit of a sleeper. So kind of looking forward to.
What does he mean by that? What does he mean by that, by a sleeper? Because maybe me and him might have a differences on how we use that word. But absolutely ready for that and can't wait. So check us out, poisonrana.ca, for everything else, including details on the lock-in right before Elimination Chamber. You can join us 5 minutes away. We're going to have a wrestling themed sing-along. Ivan Rivers, a singer-songwriter from Toronto, he's going to be doing wrestling themes all day leading up to Elimination Chamber with some games and prizes and stuff. It's going to be a blast. We want to bring the wrestling community together and have a lot of fun. So we're definitely excited about that. But poisonrana.ca for everything else that we do. We have a bit of a different show today because we're going to jump into all the wrestling talk from the week, but we're going to kick things off with a bit of a guest, because if you've listened to us the past few weeks, past few months, actually, we were raving and ranting about how much fun we had at a independent wrestling show here in the city of Toronto, where we are from. And we had so much fun at the last one, and we talked all about it. It seemed to be a pretty newsworthy show, considering all the stuff that came out of it with WWE ID and Josh Alexander kind of leaving the independents, it seemed, at least in Canada, from the show. So it was a big show. And Northern Crown is the name of the show that we went to. So they're doing another show in just less than 2 weeks here in the city. So we thought we'd have some synergy and we'd have some fun and talk to the people behind Northern Crown. Give them a follow on all social media, especially their Instagram, for all the details of everything that they do. But we have Jeff, or as I heard some people like to call him, Gigi.
I wasn't ready for my face to just pop up like that.
Your face is all popped up
insane.
Here. Welcome to the show, Mr. Gigi. How's it going?
What's going on? It's going really, really good. 2 weeks away. We're actually not just under 2 weeks away. I think doors open in 2 weeks and 2 hours, just under 2 hours, if I'm looking at the clock correctly. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm super pumped to be on the show. When you guys came out to the show, kind of unannounced, stumbled across and just showed up to have a good time with some friends. We were super pumped to see some of the news that you guys were able to break for us, and we got a lot of like publicity based on just like simple photos and tweets that you guys did, especially with like Josh Alexander and everything. I think I see him in the chat right now, so I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, no way. Oh,
it says,
dude.
I'm here from he's in the chat, and he's also right here.
Josh Alexander wrestle buddy. Oh, beautiful. Give people a little like snapshot. What exactly is Northern Crown? Like, I know you guys have been only running for a few years, and this is going to be your fifth show.
Five times. We I'm a photographer in Ontario indie wrestling. I've been doing that for 6 or 7 years or so. Helped out with certain promotions. I thought it would be cool to get a belt made and just kind of put it out into Ontario indies that would kind of, just blanket the whole scene, and it can be defended here, there, or everywhere. My good friend Shane Saber kind of helped me name the belt, and we put my stupid photography logo on the bottom of it, and then it just sat in a corner for a bit. We never did anything with it. From there, again, Josh Alexander is one of my really close friends. He kept on saying, you're helping other people run shows, do it for yourself instead of doing it for everyone else. And that kind of was the beginning of Northern Crown. We had this belt that was called the Northern Crown belt. And between me, Saber, Josh kind of like pushing us in the right direction and helping us out where we needed to be helped out and just supporting us. And then our other business partner, Loden, who comes from the music indie scene in the Hamilton area. He does photography, videography. He's unreal talented. He was like, guys, I want in. I worked a lot with him doing photography and he being a videographer and whatnot. So it just kind of worked perfectly. The three of us kind of jumped in there full steam. We wanted to run our first show. We did that, and it was a pretty good success. We came out swinging, booked some pretty good matches that we thought were good matches, stuff that you don't really get to see in Ontario very often. And then we didn't do anything for a year or so, and we just kind of sat back. Venues are hard, locations are hard here in Ontario, so we didn't want to just like run a show to run a show. That was a big part of it. And we were just kind of waiting for the right opportunity. Blood Brothers reached out to us. They said, we heard that you guys run a really cool show. We want to have a wrestling show here. And that relationship kind of just and set things in the right direction. We just, without Blood Brothers, we probably wouldn't be running shows at all. We didn't love the search for looking for venues and all the drama and nonsense that goes with it. So honestly, like, shout out to Blood Brothers for sure for being able to give us a platform to showcase what we think is top-notch wrestling in Ontario.
It sells itself.
Don't cut me off. I was talking.
like this is a brewery that we go to. This is a bar that we take friends to. We take a lot of visitors to the city, and that is kind of actually how we stumbled across you guys, because we wanted to go to the bar, and then we were looking, oh, maybe they have something on, and then we saw that there was wrestling announced for like weeks and weeks in advance. We were like, this is awesome. So not only is it like wrestling, but wrestling inside of a brewery, and dare I say, no promotion, no nothing, just straight up, we love their beer. So it is a pretty awesome like match made in heaven for a wrestling fan. You get great beer and you get some great wrestling at the same time. So it's loved
perfect.
it.
Like as soon as we walked in, we were like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like great space, just great. Like I love just the aesthetics of it to start with. Like the
venue
kegs,
itself,
the plants, the lighting is perfect.
Yeah.
And then fantastic beer, which goes hand in hand with wrestling. So it's awesome. Like we were just talking a little bit off air of like we appreciate how hard venues are to find, and as much as wrestling's booming, it still is a niche where I'm sure a lot of places you talk to kind of still don't really understand what it is or what they're getting into. So being able to have a venue like Blood Brothers, a partnership with Blood Brothers, who are as excited to be like in the wrestling world as you are, is awesome.
It's funny because when we first got in contact with them, we went out and checked the venue, and I was like, "Oh, this looks awesome." And then the manager there was like, "Yeah, this space is awesome. So I'm going to show you where we're going to run the show." And he brought us over to the other side, and we were just like, "Oh no!" They're like, "There's no chance we're going to be able to put a ring in here." Like the ring would go wall to wall, and like there was zero atmosphere. And we were like, "Oh well, if we'll do it if we have to do it, but we want to go over there." And we were able to kind of like work it out and figure it out. And they for sure like didn't really have a huge idea of what they were getting into. Like they were pumped for it and they really wanted it, but they were like, like waivers and all this stuff. I when I messaged Tyler, the manager, he was like, I thought after the last show to book show 5. So we went from like, no, we can't run in this room, we got to run over there, blah blah blah, to guys, how do we install a rope swing in here for the wrestlers to dive on it? I was like, oh man, he's full in. This is awesome.
I mean, yeah, the last show, I'm pretty sure, if I'm making sure I get the name right, Aiden Prince did a dive off of the like beer barrels and everything. Like that was an insane spot. It was like he dove over top of people onto this other. Oh man, it is a very creative place. Like you don't think you would be able to put a wrestling show in every bar or establishment.
It's hard because like a big part of it too is like, where do the wrestlers get changed? Where do we put merch?
True.
How do we just get people funneling in and being able to get to the washrooms, get to like it's definitely not an easy task to just. You can't just go into any room, throw a ring in there, and be like, "We're going to run a show."
I'm also sure it's not an easy task, because I noticed like the talent that you guys have had. Now this is show 5, and you've only done a handful of shows, literally a handful now. But I'm noticing like this is like deep cuts of some wrestling. Where do these ties come to? Because like I'm noticing we got like Steve Macklin, who's advertised. We had Josh Alexander on the last one. There's obviously people like Del Bruno and like Toronto, Ontario local, but I'm noticing there's also sprinkled in some independent wrestlers that are like definitely starting to make a name for themselves, whether it's through like GCW or other American independents. So like this has become a bit of a like, I don't want to compare it to like punk rock or like
don't do it. Don't compare us to anything, because then we're gonna drop the ball and shit the bed.
Yeah, that's true. But it's sick. It's like I don't know. It's like you're finding like little deep rare candies of like cool things that maybe you help showcase a lot of other wrestlers that, maybe wouldn't get some shine sometimes. I don't know. Yeah. I find what you guys are doing really cool.
We definitely like shooting Ontario indie wrestling for 7 years. I've shot a lot of the exact same matches over and over and over again. Canada and the States are very, very different. It's expensive to bring anybody north of the border, and it's risky because you don't know if they're going to make it or whatever it be. But a big part of like what Northern Crown was when we first started brainstorming this was just like doing something different. Putting on great matches with great wrestlers was the number one priority. We don't want to just like put anybody in a match just because a match needs to happen. Most promotions run anywhere from 8 to 10 matches. I think we've only run one show with 7 matches. The rest of them had 6. Like it's all about like quality over quantity. And there's so much great talent out there. There's great talent in Ontario, like, for sure. But we just wanted to be able to give people something different than what they see all the time. And that's not me like shitting on any of the Ontario promotions, because again, I work with them all. I enjoy working with them. I love the talent pool in Ontario, but it's just nice to be able to get something different for once. So that was our number one priority. Our first show, we had Rocky Romero in the main event, and we thought that was like such a big deal. Like, when was the last time he was in Toronto or Ontario? And like how many indie matches does he do a year? It's really not that many. So we thought we would come out swinging and try to do something different, bringing in Rocky, and then having kind of Josh in our corner and being able to work with him, and him being able to put on the matches he's putting on with our Ontario talent and kind of pushing them in the right direction is huge, right? Like sometimes these kids didn't get an opportunity to wrestle with Josh because they were coming up and he was moving on, and now he's moving on or whatever, done with the indies, especially in Ontario. Yeah, it's just being able to try to put on stuff that we don't see. Macklin's been here quite a few times, and he absolutely tears it up every single time. He gets put in like big name matches when he's here. We thought it would be awesome for him to roll with Del Bruno. Del Bruno's obviously one of the best to come out of Ontario. So we thought right there, that's a perfect matchup that you're not going to see many places. And we've got Macklin on the show again, and we're really pumped to have him back. The GCW guys, I'm a big GCW fan, and Cole Radrick was always a guy that I loved watching before we started up this. So the second we brought in Northern Crown, when I was like, let's get Ratty Daddy up here, I've created a great relationship with him. When he comes in, he crashes at my place, hangs out with us. Really, really good dude. They won the Game Changer tag titles, so we're excited to have the Game Changer tag titles on our show. That's cool for me, at least. I think it's cool.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like you're doing a good mix of like little gems that maybe not everybody is like put onto quite yet. But I've noticed through like the last, like we were at the last show, and then I've noticed that you guys also upload stuff on their YouTube. So I'd recommend people searching Northern Crown Wrestling, give them a follow on their YouTube as well, because you were like uploading different matches and stuff like that. So even people from like who can't be there or who are there in spirit, you can still watch, which I think is cool because you can see it in the
it's hard, and like everything sorry to cut you off, everything we do is like in-house. Like we shoot all those videos ourselves, like between me and Loden. There's a couple guys in the States that will film for us that I've created relationships with. They send it to us, but we edit that stuff. All the graphic design is either done through me, Loden, or our other partner, Griggs. We do like literally everything from the ground up is us. So like it's time consuming. It's really, really time consuming. I've got 2 kids. So like the YouTube stuff and all these videos, we want to get all of it out as fast as we can. It's hard. And it's another thing where it's like quantity over quality. We're not going to just like throw it together and put it out there. We want to make sure everything is like on brand. So we still have so much content that we're like ready to put out when we get time, obviously. And we're so excited because there's like every match in Northern Crown bangs, and we just want the world to see it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean that last main event you had, Josh Alexander, on Vertigo, and Fuerza was incredible.
It was insane.
Being such a big fan of Josh Alexander for years and seeing him sort of wrestle, obviously he's local to us, but seeing him like on his way out, but still giving like 200% was awesome. And how did you come about sort of those 3? How did you choose those 3 to be that main event? Because I thought that was an incredibly special match that night.
Josh just decided to correct me. He's watching out for me at all times. In the chat, he said I definitely meant quality over quantity, and that is what I meant. He's got my back. Daddy's watching me at all times. How did we come up with that? Like we worked with Fuerza and Vertigo a lot in another promotion that we used to work with, and just watching them come up over the last couple of years and like really pushing themselves. Fuerza's had some of the best matches I've seen in Ontario. Like him and Rocky was insane. Vertigo, like nobody bets on themselves as much as Vertigo bets on himself. It's crazy to watch like everything he does.
Who's got a visa now? American listeners,
visa, man. I'm so excited for him.
Wrestling promoters listening. Vaughn Vertigo's got a visa. I've been watching this guy for so long. I love him. Seeing that, I hope he gets to pop up in a lot of American independents, because that is so cool.
I don't remember the last like Canadian wrestler that went out and got a visa for themselves. Like there's always the help and everything, but like that kid is he's just doing it. So this whole storyline came up with the show before that. Fuerza beat Josh, and it was one of the first times Josh has been pinned in Ontario in like we don't even know how long, like forever. And that was kind of like a really big deal. And Josh put Forza over after the match, and like this is not stuff that we talk about. This is just like passion. Like we don't really do storylines in Northern Crown because we only run 3 times a year and 6 matches a show to 7 matches a show. So like that was just like straight from the heart. Josh does what Josh does, and that was cool. So we thought like, oh, like Vertigo is partners with Fuerza. The next smart thing to do would be Josh and Vertigo, right? Because like the other two just destroyed it. They ripped it up. That match was nuts. And Josh beat Vertigo, so Vertigo doesn't get that pin on Josh. And then Josh decided to turn heel. He tombstoned me in the ring, and he took the belt. And it was just another one of those, like, we don't do storylines, but it just happened organically, where like Josh was like, I'm taking this belt. I'm the king of the North. I'm Josh Alexander. I'm the best. These kids can't, tie my boots. And it just kind of like, it just made sense to go. Would it have been cool to kind of extend it a little longer? Maybe. But with, not knowing what's happening with Josh, it was just like, let's do this triple threat and see what happens. And man, it was just I've watched the match back like so many times, and it was just on another level. It was insane. Like,
oh, it's unreal, especially after a few blood lights, as well.
The blood lights. The blood lights. It's funny because we had WWE ID there, and they were like very particular about what could be on camera and what couldn't be. Okay. And they were like, oh, I think you have to shut that light off because the big blood light sign is in the background. They're like, no advertisements. And I was like, but I don't think that's an advertisement. They're like, well, what's blood light? I was like, I don't know. I think it might be a beer. And it's their beer, but he was like, okay, maybe shut it off during the match then. So I don't even know if we did or not. But yeah,
how was that with WWE?
It's on here. So
you're right. It is lit up there.
No, it is lit up. There it is. Boom. We didn't shut it off. Yeah, we won.
Yeah, like we'd love to know. So Braden and I, we've been covering NXT for years and years now at this point. So we been doing the show Up Next for Post Wrestling, and so we've always like interested in the developmental scene, sort of who's coming up and that kind of stuff. That's why we love going to the indies. So to be there, seeing the Zoe Sager getting the WWID was really cool. But maybe you could tell us how that came about. When did you find out about that? Sort of how did that all come together?
It's actually really cool. This photo's really neat because like a lot of our fans, like we have a lot of Ontario fans come out, but like we have a lot of brewery fans that come out and people that don't watch wrestling, let alone independent wrestling, but they come out and they love the vibe. They love being able to do this, once every 3-4 months. And just seeing this photo, who like nobody in that room had seen Zoe wrestle before because she's from, the West Coast, and just seeing like all the phones up in the air and all the pictures and stuff, like capturing such a cool moment. And like, I can tell you, like, that whole front line there are like good friends of mine that don't go to wrestling. So even seeing them knowing like how special that moment was, and they wanted to capture it on their phones as well. Super cool. So how did it come about? That's a Shane Saber thing, man. Like he put that all together. He had a bit of a relationship with Dave, and he was kind of headlining it. He reached out to us, said, would you guys want to do a WWID? Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic if we could do it. And it just kind of like all fell together really, really well. The timing of our show, when they announced the WWID, when they wanted to announce her, like it just worked so great. So that it's literally as simple as that. Like Saber had a relationship and they wanted to do it, and they knew that like we put on cool shows that look cool and have a good crowd. It was neat. It was really neat. I had to do a promo in the ring, which obviously I just like to talk and just talk, and then I don't stop talking. I had to memorize a script, and it was like the worst time for me. Like I can go out there and talk on a microphone for like 2 hours straight, but if you tell me I have to say this verbatim, I was just like backstage.
You did great.
I did okay.
Yeah. We thought you were cashing in a Money in the Bank contract or something.
If you watch the footage, I literally trip on the rope as I'm getting in, and I'm just like, oh man, this is gonna be so bad. But it went over. It went over great. We had a lot of fun doing that, and we're so happy for her. Hopefully, more Canadians get that opportunity. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was cool. It was cool, and like, on such a big show, like with Josh announcing his that like
it felt special. It really
yeah,
did.
yeah. Macklin and Bruno opening the show was just bonkers. Like yeah, that show was something else, man. I was saying it's gonna be hard to top this one. Like it's gonna be hard to top show 4. I think we're gonna hit a home run with show 5. Honestly.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
what have we got to look forward to for show 5?
Oh, beer and wrestling, brother. We got some cool match. I think we've announced a couple of them so far.
You don't want to give too much away.
No, I'm trying to figure out like what we've announced and what we haven't announced.
Fair enough.
Because everything's like coming. We announced the Garbage Daddies and Bang & Matthews, which we got some like good hype over that. We like to bring in American wrestlers to wrestle Canadian wrestlers. There is not a lot of opportunity for Canadian tag teams to like put up against the Garbage Daddies. We reached out to a couple and they couldn't do it. It would have been great to have Sinners and Saints on the show. We've had Judas on before and he's eager to come back. Thank you. You just saved me because I was like, what is the second match we announced? But yeah, like we wanted to make sure that like if we're gonna get the Garbage Daddies to come in and with the GCW tag titles that the match needs to go just off the rails. That's going to be nuts. We got Fuerza and Cody Lane. We've had Cody Lane come in many times. The guy's super talented. We know that those two are going to go just ballistic in the ring. So I don't know. Obviously, the main event is going to be, we haven't announced it yet. I'm breaking it here. Vertigo and Steve Macklin is going to be the main event.
Amazing.
Oh. Yeah. We were hoping most people would just assume that based on who we've announced.
I kind of did. I kind of was looking at who was announced. I was like, I bet you.
Yeah. There's some other, we're really excited about the Scramble. The Scramble's a fun one. We're actually going to be doing a Scramble belt soon.
Okay.
So every show, the Scramble belt will be defended.
There was one last time. Yeah, there was a Scramble.
We've done a Scramble every show, actually.
Okay.
And we started naming them. So the one time we had like the Death Wish Scramble and stuff like that, which was named after Aiden Prince. So we're going to do a belt really, really soon with that. Hopefully for the next show, I think that should be done. Shout out to Hyperion Belts in Detroit. That guy makes them. He's insane. We actually might have something for this show that we're kind of excited about. That's another little leak that I wasn't supposed to say. Hopefully Saber's not watching right now. Well, I don't know what the fuck I was just talking about. The Scramble, yeah. We're excited about the Scramble because it's not like a way to just throw nonsense into one match and just get people on a show. But this one, we have guys that like, have worked really hard for us, have worked really hard in Ontario, that like sometimes don't get spots in Toronto. They might be a Hamilton guy and stuff like that. So we're like, it's a bit more clustery in the sense of like people we haven't used before. I don't even know if there's anybody in that match. There might be one person that we've used before. So like kind of that's just like it's going to be like a new platter for everyone to see some people that haven't seen it in Northern Crown before. And I'm really excited about that one. I don't even know if we've announced a single person that's in that yet. I think I'm going to try and get those videos done this week. I'm excited about it. We got Stratos is one of them. He's a Toronto guy. He's paid his dues. He's super good. He's gonna float well in that Scramble. So
I always love the Scramble matches. They feel
fun.
like the video games, like just mayhem. Braden, like just throwing it out there, Braden and I created a match on 2K once. 20 minutes, Falls Count Anyway, where 5-man Iron Man match. And it's just the most mental shit you can possibly imagine.
I love it. I was just like, okay, Falls Count Anywhere, great. And then you were like, Iron Man match. So it's
point
like,
system.
Yeah,
it's points, it's everywhere, yeah. It's nuts.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
I had so much fun at the last one, and again, any Ontario listeners out there, like please come to the next show. It was so much fun. We will be there as well.
Yeah.
And again, like anyone in other provinces or countries, give them a follow on their Instagram and their YouTube because, like, again, like this is pretty cool. It's a snapshot of like what's going on in Toronto, in the Ontario scene. And right now, WWE being so hot, wrestling is super hot right now. And I want to help spread the word of like the wrestling community in Toronto and everything. And it was so much fun at the last one. I know this one will be even more fun with even more blood lights on deck there. But where can people get tickets, or where can they find more information about
the longest email in the history of the world? If you want tickets, it's Northern Crown Management at gmail.com. This is actually, we're really, really excited. This is the most pre-sale we've done going into like a couple weeks of the show. Like tickets have been just blowing up. This place does have a capacity. We've been just skimming that capacity every single time. If people want to come to the show, I do plead, buy your tickets in advance. This isn't like a carny scam. We might have to turn people away at this one, which is not our goal ever. We want to cram as many people as we can in there, but we literally are like selling tickets nonstop, and we're super pumped about that. So yeah, like hit us up on socials and DM us or email us. Anything you want, and we'll do our best to get tickets to everybody.
Excellent. Well, it's a great time because the name is We the North, and buy Canadian. Everybody support Canadian right now 100%. Is a big thing, and Northern Crown is the Canadian independent scene right now, I think so.
Yes. Before you go, I just want to say, like, Braden, does this guy remind you of anyone? Starts off as a photographer for wrestling, starts his own company. Likes to talk, wears baseball caps, takes bumps in the ring.
Do you wear a leather jacket as well?
Yeah. I obsessed about a duster at one point. I 100% did. Yeah.
Interesting. The Canadian Paul Heyman here.
I always said I'm the #1 photographer and the second worst promoter in all of Ontario. And if you ask me who the number one worst promoter is, I'll tell you. Go ahead and ask me.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, ask me.
We'll have to see.
Ask me. Ask me. Who? Shane Saber.
All right. Thank you so much, dude. We really appreciate
you having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks and 1.5 hours.
Blood Brothers Brewery.
We'll see you there.
Show 5.
Open a beer with you. It'll be
absolutely. Thank you so much,
awesome,
Gigi.
Guys. Thanks for having me, guys.
Lovely.
Take care, dude. Cheers.
See ya.
And thanks everyone for listening. And again, if you are in the Toronto area, Ontario area, please make his way. As Josh Alexander in the chat says, his haircut is terrible. Oh, we just cut him off too. Damn. Maybe one day we'll have to talk to Josh about some Northern Crown and some Ontario wrestling. There's the invite there. Big fan, Josh. Appreciate everyone in the chat here for listening to that. We don't always like do interviews on Sundays, but we would love to help spread the word of the Toronto and Ontario and any independent wrestling community. I think is very, very important. So we will be there on February 23rd. And if you are in the area, Northern Crown Management at gmail.com is where you can email to get a ticket, and buy soon because it was jammed last time. And this time, like you said, is probably going to be even more packed. So definitely looking forward to that. And thank you, Gigi, for that. That was a lot of fun. But now we can talk about some wrestling that's going on this week in the world of wrestling. I'm talking WWE on the road to Toronto, the Sky Dome. I still call it that because that's the real name of it. You American listeners out there keep saying, what's the Sky Dome? I'm like, yeah, it's not the Rogers Center. Okay, it's the Sky Dome. All right. And it's having a very big show. The first big wrestling event since WrestleMania 18 is taking place. I don't need to promote it, but I do need to promote.
Yeah, we don't need to sell those guys.
We don't need to help promote them, but we can promote earlier in the day, 5 minutes away at Gabby's King Street West, the Lock-In. Please join us for our tailgate party. We want to do some wrestling karaoke, some sing-alongs. Our friend Ivan Rivers will be singing and performing some WWE theme covers, and then we're going to have some prizes and games and everything. So put on your best wrestling fit that you can find, because Toronto's definitely going to be alive and well with March 1st, just in a few weeks. So join us, poisonrana.ca for the links of everything else that we do. But yes, we will be at the Chamber. We will be having a big fun day of wrestling, and it's cool to see the city come alive for it. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Absolutely. But I think we've got to get into the news. What happened this week in the world of pro wrestling? And I think, shall we start with the bad news, the sad news, the in memoriam, the pour one out segment of the show, as it's that time of year, and WWE made some cuts over this weekend over the course of SmackDown. We had the news on Tuesday about Duke Hudson. We talked about that on our Up Next show on Post Wrestling. Did you catch his video he put out after his release? We didn't get a chance to talk about that.
Duke Hudson?
Yeah.
I had mentioned that, like, I know that he did that video, Wrestling with Identity, which it looks like there's going to be a few more videos to come, because I'm not sure if it's kind of funny because he's Vink interviewing Hudson essentially in this thing. So I thought that was pretty smart. We're seeing different ways that wrestlers, leave WWE or vice versa. Like, we just had Northern Crown on. They're very slick with their videos and promotion, and wrestlers, I think, can learn from that. Like, whether wrestlers are editing these videos or whatever themselves, or have like a bit of a team behind them, I think that would really help them, because a video like Duke Hudson leaves you wanting kind of more of them now. Like him promoting, like, hey, this is just part one. Like, so now it's like, okay, like it's like almost using the internet as a smart way to keep your name in circulation. So I really like it.
It's a great thing to do. And especially, like, I mean, we were just chatting to Gigi for Northern Crown, who makes a lot of their videos and stuff. And obviously we've worked with Dickie many times, and there are incredibly talented people out there who can help these guys and sort of hit the ground running on these release. Apparently, even during this show, it's just been announced that Elektra Lopez has just been released. So, but yeah, we've had quite a few names. So, adding to the list of Elektra Lopez, we've had AOP and Paul Ellering, Sonya Deville, Blair Davenport, Isla Dawn, Cedric Alexander, the Good Brothers, and Giovanni Vinci.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like not the greatest time to celebrate when we're not celebrating, but like the fact that certain people haven't been used in quite a long time. And I think when the Duke announcement came out, it was kind of a sign. I think we were talking about like, hey, this is probably not going to be the only one. And I know NXT and WWE seem to be a bit different and stuff like that. But like seeing the bunch of these releases, a lot of these characters haven't been necessarily used a whole lot. I mean, you're talking about the Good Brothers. The last time we saw them was probably NXT. Remember they wrestled quite often on NXT in the last year, and then there was like an injury or something.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if AJ Styles' injury kind of like affected things there. But look, these guys are
the luckiest.
Somehow they'll make more money leaving WWE.
Somehow they've already have. I don't know
these
how,
guys. They have had they know how to put in the work and graft and grift and get their money. So it's always interesting. Where will the Good Brothers be next?
They're going to be
apparently
fine.
No confirmation yet on Elektra Lopez, but she's apparently been moved to the alumni page.
Okay, so while on the Good Brothers, do I want to see the Good Brothers wrestle in 2025? No, but I can't knock the hustle, because they are the biggest hustlers in maybe wrestling ever. They're up there with Kevin Nash. They're not as many millions, but they still made millions, and you got to bless them. I can't ever hate on the Good Brothers, but they know how to make a dollar, and I think they'll be fine. Maybe we'll get a Okada versus Carl rematch. People really looking for that one, because that's the only match that people still bring up when referring to Carl Anderson. But I think there's a place for them in wrestling. And I don't know, am I the only one who kind of wants to see what was it? Talking Shop a Mania 3?
I watched that first one twice. I'm good.
Why did you do that? I forgot that there was a second one.
I had to review it for Post Wrestling during the pandemic, and then Ginger Ninja Dan Reed picked it for us to review. So yeah,
did we watch 2? I don't remember what happened on 2.
I feel like I watched 2.
yeah, maybe because you watched it twice. But yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think they hit their ceiling, I think, in WWE, and I don't even think AJ Styles necessarily needs them anymore either. So that one, not necessarily the biggest shock. Cedric Alexander, he's a name we've been talking about recently on NXT quite often. An incredible worker, but as of late, he's kind of just been floating around ever since the Hurt Business stuff didn't really work out with him on the main roster, which I don't think that was his fault. I'm not necessarily sure what happened with that. And I think fans were
I'd say Vince with that, most likely.
Probably.
Like it was definitely one of those acts that the legs got cut from underneath it way too early. It was a shame. It was an act that never really was in front of a live crowd. And I definitely, during the pandemic, we were doing our watch-alongs and stuff. The Hurt Business seemed to be something that people were into. And obviously we're seeing the success of the Hurt Syndicate right now on AEW. I can 100% see there being interest there. If TK can maybe smooth things over with his wife, perhaps, because there was the New Year's Eve tweets a couple of years ago with Big Swole. So whether that would affect anything, but
street fight tonight.
Yeah, but I do see him landing in AEW with the Hurt Syndicate. It just makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Or there's so many other places. I know that people still remember when it was the Cruiserweight Classic, like Triple H making the deal to sign him to come back out.
Ibushi versus Cedric, right? Was a real highlight.
I think he was misused a little bit, and I hope he can kind of bounce back. Blair Davenport, I kind of think she's been someone who hasn't been used at all. I saw some reports. I'm not sure if it was Fightful saying there was talks of her joining Chelsea Green's stable, but that never worked or something. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but we've seen her in NXT. She wasn't really doing too much there. I think maybe she'd be a little bit better off outside of WWE right now, considering the roster may be a little bloated and no room for her. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, her character, she's good in ring and she's quite, domineering as a performer, which lends itself to being a upper card heel. And there's just so much in WWE that I think they just never really had creative plans for her. I could see her being, an asset to maybe TNA, as a heel in that promotion, although you do have Tessa Blanchard as the big heel there right now. But I could see them, especially losing Jordan Grace. They need some more women in their knockouts division, so I could see that being an option. I feel AEW could maybe still do with a couple more women, but I feel they've finally kind of got their women's roster together a bit. So personally, I'd be leaning towards maybe TNA for Blair Davenport.
Yeah, that could make sense too. I felt like she never really found a character, and that's something that can hurt, especially with WWE right now. We're back in the era of big characters that are getting over. I think so. Wrestling still kind of comes secondary in WWE because I go to Isla Dawn. Now they didn't release her partner Alba Fire, but they released Isla Dawn, who the gimmick that they've been doing the last little while is just witches, which is you can't just be spooky in wrestling. It just doesn't work anymore. You have to, there's layers to whatever the character is. And being a spooky witch, I don't necessarily think was working, but there's another character that I could see showing up in a TNA. A TNA loves their spooky stuff. So she would fit right in.
Yeah. For the likes of Isla Dawn and Blair, I'm not sure, is Blair married to Riley Osborne or
yes, in NXT.
Okay. So she should be okay visa wise. Whereas Isla Dawn is someone who, isn't from the States, don't know what the visa situation is. So unless she's picked up, it could be a little difficult. So perhaps might see her in the European scene for a bit or up here in Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she's someone as well. I feel her character can kind of fit some of the cartooniness that TNA often presents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could possibly see her landing there if visas and stuff are sorted out.
Another one is Sonya Deville. I can't say I didn't even realize, I haven't necessarily watched a lot of her in the last few years, that I was kind of surprised when I saw the Royal Rumble. I was like, oh yeah, there's this group with the three of them. And I guess that group is no longer a thing because she is gone. I always thought she was a good talker, but I couldn't necessarily get into her matches. I can't name a match.
Yeah, I feel she was never really given, apart from the Mandy Rose feud during the pandemic, which was really strong actually, but kind of cut short because the whole home invasion and stuff like that happened to Sonya
right.
in real life. And then she disappeared for a bit and came back as a general manager and didn't really wrestle a whole lot after that. Or when she was presented as a jobber or whatever a lot of the time. I don't think she was bad in ring. I don't think she was the best, but I do think she has something to her as a talker, and can see her in sort of that like manager, occasional wrestler role, sort of like an MVP offers, like can get in the ring and wrestle sometimes, but I think could add to some acts as a talker. The whole Pure Fusion Collective thing, I don't know anyone who was into it. I just found it dull. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was just dull. And I'd be interested to see what they'll do, whether they'll keep Zoe and Shayna together as a pair moving forward. But if she wants to continue, I do see there being a role for Sonya Deville in wrestling, because I do think she's got her fans out there. And also having someone like Proudly represent the sort of, the LGBTQ community as well. She's always done that, being very outspoken about that, and has done a lot of good for that community, I think. So I could see her falling on her feet somewhere.
I'm sure she'll be fine. Yeah, I can't say I necessarily liked a lot of the stuff that was presented from her. I see someone in the chat, shout out Chris Leone, who's bringing up her shoot fighter gimmick early on became a lot less interesting since Ronda joined. Yeah, remember her character was pretty much like, hey, I'm an MMA fighter. And then a real MMA fighter of Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey came into the company, and then everyone realized, you're actually not that. So,
I mean, she was, but not to the level of a Ronda Rousey, you know? But yeah, it's true. Like, that was something that made her interesting. She was in that season of Tough Enough, with Mandy Rose and Patrick Clark, etc. And did stand out on that show.
You know who was an MMA fighter? I'm not sure which one. Inkum or Razor. One of them was an MMA.
We've been covering these guys for how many years?
What's their names?
Akum and Razor.
Akum and Razor. Sorry, I still, at least I didn't call them Toka and Razor, because that's what I used to from Ninja Turtles too. But we won't need to get into that, Davey. But they got rid of the AOP again, and Father Time. What's his name again? Paul Ellering. Oh man, I love hating on Paul Ellering, which means he does his job. But I'm sad to see them go. But we won't be seeing Paul Ellering wearing his tight leather pants on television anymore. So really, are we winning or are we losing here? I'm not sure.
I found these two kind of interesting because when they were allowed to go out there and just sort of murder people, I found them quite entertaining. They had that match with, I believe, Fraxium last year, which was pretty fun. And I always liked them in that role. I absolutely hated the Final Testament as a stable. It was just, it felt like a stable made up of managers. It was like 3 managers in these two.
Paul Ellering.
And they never really gave them much of a run. Like, I think in the tag division, there was a place for them as what we've seen, your Braun Strowmans, your Bronson Reeds, your Bron Breakers doing, where it's just sometimes just an entertaining car crash meat match. But I don't think they ever really used them enough in that way. And therefore, they were just 2 blokes on the roster who never talked and had this old bloke talking for them who no one really cared about either. Apparently, there's still within the industry kind of a lot of negativity because they had their whole cryptocurrency NFT wrestling show that never happened, which the likes of Chelsea Green, Nia Jax, Mojo Rawley, that's off the top of my head, people were booked on this show, it was cancelled, they were never paid, that kind of thing. So I don't necessarily see these two landing elsewhere.
Yeah, it was very weird when they were brought back. Like, it was almost like, did Triple H just bring them back because they were his NXT? Same with Cross, right? Same with Karrion Kross. It was like he was already gone. And I felt like, okay, you've been brought back. Now's your time. And they were put on WrestleMania. Now, WrestleMania Night 2, that was the match, right? The Final Testament. Yeah. Everyone would have picked Night 2 WrestleMania as pay-per-view show of the year. But then you looked at the card and everyone went, oh, wait, that match was on there? Actually, no, wait, no, it wasn't. You can't pick that show as match of the year with that match on it.
That was the palate cleanser, wasn't it?
It was the break, but still, you know what? They were fine heels and whatever, but I can't say they were very interesting. So it's kind of trimming the fat a little bit here. I'm sure they'll still end up in wrestling. Paul Ellering, a legend in the business, maybe like it was kind of a done deal. But again, I would just, every time I would see them, I'm like, why did they keep showing this old man in these tight leather pants all the time? I'm like, can we show me Scarlett or something? I don't know what's going on with this guy. So I'm not that upset that we're losing those.
Fire Frank says that match was actually good. I didn't hate it. It was very much the, what was that, like LOD and Ahmed Johnson, like Chicago street fight, kind of just some noise to cleanse your palate. But yeah,
match of the year probably.
Sure.
And then another one on the list here. So sorry, Karrion Kross is not released, right? Like he is still there.
Karrion Kross is still there.
They probably will go forward with some plans with him.
They've been letting him talk quite a bit recently, and actually I've found him quite entertaining on the mic recently. We'll see what happens when the bell rings, but they have been setting up some stuff for him, and I think it'll actually help him being more on his own, or just him and Scarlett, rather than in this group of 5 people.
Okay, and then the next one here. Giovanni Vinci, or Giovanni Vins.
Yeah.
Don't call him Johnny Sins.
Vinny Vinci.
Vinny Vinci. Now, we've seen this character on NXT a bit, and we thought it was hysterical with the entrance, with the snapshots of the photos. I feel like they used that once, maybe twice on the main roster, and it just didn't pan out. And ever since the Ludwig separation, the split there with Gunther and him, he's just been kind of not been used and then brought back and then not used. And there's so much talk that there was supposed to be a push with this Italian Vinny Vinci Playboy character that we kind of saw them playing with a bit in NXT. And we've watched this guy for a long time. The wrestling was enough to always get him everywhere. Like, he is an outstanding in-ring performer, but I felt like maybe the character that they were trying wasn't working. I personally was a fan, and I was kind of like, hey, why didn't they go with that? And I don't want to be that rumor mill podcast, but I do see some people in the chat bringing it up. There are rumors out there, and they're completely rumored, gross dirt sheet rumors that something had happened with him, potentially with Ludwig, and that is why there was a falling out, and maybe possibly that is why this release comes. Again, this is not me reporting anything. I'm just reciting, online internet wrestling.
Yeah, so for those who haven't seen the rumors, and again, reiterate, these are rumors. There's no proof. It is talking about people's personal lives and stuff, but that he was maybe trying it with Tiffany, and Ludwig didn't like that. So it's weird, because it's, whether there's truth or anything in that, I do feel something happened. That could be complete bullshit, but I feel there's more to the story than just they released him because there were no plans for this guy. Because during this Triple H reign, I can't think of a burial. Vince did that a lot. Vince, someone would piss him off, you'd see them get buried on TV.
Embarrassed on TV.
On TV. I can't really put my finger on anyone else like that that's happened, whether that be in NXT or main roster during Triple H's reign. But it is odd. You had this group, Imperium, who were an incredible tag team, 2 incredible wrestlers in Kaiser and Vinci, who should have been mixing up in that tag division, in my opinion, should have had a tag title run. They should have been, Gunther as the world champion and these 2 as the tag champions.
Yes,
and I think that the tag division needs to have some stronger teams in there. Think these 2 mixing it up with, we saw what they could do with DIY in NXT, but mixing up with the Machine Guns, with New Day, with Usos, War Raiders and all that kind of stuff. But then you have Ludwig absolutely kill him on TV. He gets taken out for months. I think it was 5 months he was away or something like that. We then get the vignettes, which were very similar to what we saw in NXT, of this kind of, Mr. Worldwide, Pitbull sort of model kind of character.
Johnny Sins, yeah.
Establishing that character, coming to SmackDown, ran vignettes for a few weeks, comes in and loses twice in very quick, embarrassing fashion to Apollo Crews, a guy that they had barely been using. And it was just a bit head scratching. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
And then he went off TV and was off TV for months, and now he's gone. So I don't know. That just seems a bit like a burial to me compared to these other people who have just, some of them, like a Cedric, has been having stories on TV. Others have just been used less and less. It did kind of seem like trying to embarrass this guy a little bit. So I don't know. I think he's an incredible wrestler, and like we loved some of his stuff, like going way back to, he went to Evolve and kind of reinvented himself a little bit there as Fabian Eichner as the champion, and coming back, and Imperium, just some awesome tag matches they had.
The Worlds Collide match.
The Worlds Collide match, right way back to the Cruiserweight Classic, stuff he was doing in that.
Yeah.
Like, I think this guy's a tremendous wrestler, and whether it's we see him in a major promotion or just, killing it on your indie scene, like, because he is someone whose style is very, very fan friendly for just killer matches on the indies, I'd say. But yeah, there's definitely maybe where there's smoke, there's fire with it. I don't know.
Again, it's only rumors, but like maybe he addresses these rumors. Maybe he's like, hey, this is all, not true and whatever, but that hasn't come out or anything like that. And
there were comments from Ludwig as well, like saying like the tag team needed to end. I needed to, like, there was kind of not painting him necessarily in the best light.
Right. Yeah. I think he'll be fine. I think he could be a bigger act, like in a TNA or something like that. Like, again, the wrestling, I liked that character. He was funny with that entrance and everything. So maybe he continues, whether he uses his name Fabian.
But we keep on saying how much how much that NXT is struggling in the men's division. This guy would have been, this guy helping elevate Trick Williams and those kind of things. He should be, if there is heat with him and some of the people on the main roster, I don't see why, like, maybe a 6-month run on NXT, at least giving it a go, could have helped. I think.
Well, they shall be missed. I'm sure they will pop up in other companies. There's a whole lot of wrestling now. There's like Impact, MLW, I think is a thing. AEW, Ring of Honor, Independence. There's so much wrestling right now that I feel like if people want to continue in wrestling, which I think out of this entire crop here, they all have history before WWE and after, and then back and forth and stuff. So I think they'll be fine. There's a big landscape of so many different companies that they could land in. And I've already seen Blair Davenport tweet Top Gaijin, maybe referring to her going back to Japan, wrestling there. Eichner, I mean, he could go wrestle in, I know he's Italian, but like the Germany scene and everything, and the European scene. Good Brothers, wherever they can make a buck, I'm sure they'll pop up. We mentioned the Witch in TNA. Like, there's a lot of options. And, I don't think this is necessarily like shocker. Any of these are big shockers. Like, wow, I can't believe they got rid of this person.
It's not like when they were releasing, Braun and Bray and Nia during the pandemic. Like, these are not surprising. We don't see a whole lot of these people on TV.
Exactly. So there could be more. You referenced like there's some people reporting Elektra Lopez. Like, by the time you're listening to this, maybe there's more cuts coming, because WrestleMania is not cheap to pay out your people. So the people who are going to be on the show, they need to be able to afford them, I guess. But yeah, pour one out. Still, I'm the only one I'm still upset at, really, is Duke. I'm still just upset that Duke Hudson's gone. I'm like, dude, there's money to be made with this guy. I don't know what it is. Maybe just after a year, 2 years of Chase U,
he was just someone where, like, and I've always said about it's funny to compare them, but I've always said, man, I wish we just saw what Undisputed Era on the main roster would have been like. Could we have just tried that? Could we have just tried that? And ridiculous comparison, but I'm like, could we not have just tried Chase U on the main roster? Just tried.
It was one of the most over concepts in NXT the last year. Like, more over than some of the world title pictures. Like, what the hell? You look at
those shows, and obviously there are plants for that, like, Chase U section, but there's still like more than that. Like, those shirts, the Chase U shirts were popular. You'd see a lot of them.
they fumbled it. They fumbled the ball with getting rid of him. I really like Duke. I hope we get to see him somewhere else, and I'm sure we will. But oh man, that one's out of all this list. I was just like, fuck you, Triple H.
Shall we get into some SmackDown?
Yeah. Speaking of being upset with Triple H, you're playing with my heart, brother. You're playing with my heart, my wallet, my head, because in the same week that Triple H teases that I'm going to get Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens inside the Sky Dome in Canada to top that, to totally outdo himself, he's now teased Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes for the same show. Are you kidding me?
I saw this match. I went to this match in Cleveland.
And you were asleep for that one. So
no, I was not. Wrong SummerSlam. But yeah.
What the hell, man? Why you do this to me, Triple H?
This feels like, Roman's not going to be on the show. We got to get Cody on the show. We don't want to burn through any feud that we want to do either for Mania or post Mania. So let's rehash this one. It's like, it doesn't excite me at all. I thought, towards the end of Solo's run, I was starting to enjoy the character a bit more. I think when he was starting to be a bit funnier on the mic, I thought more came out of him, but I don't want to see him in this world title picture. Me kind of theorizing, I see him losing the match and Jacob attacking him, and kind of whether it's, which would be a weird dynamic because I think everyone really wants to just cheer Jacob Fatu. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
Have him take control of whatever this version of the bloodline is. We're not calling them that anymore. But I could see this to be a way to set up that. It's like, you lost tribal combat for the crown of tribal chief. You lost your world title match again. It's time to write you off and move on. But I don't want to see this. I do think there's, from the teases, there is enough on this card to make Elimination Chamber sound interesting. I think you're going to have one of the most stacked men's Elimination Chamber matches for a long time, if ever. Yeah. Going back to when they first started doing these. And Kevin versus Sami is enough. And I think there's still, I think in a way, picking who for both Rumbles to win, it has made it interesting because I think it is still a bit of open, which way are they going? I think Cena's probably the favorite, but the women's division still don't see. So I still think there's a lot of interest and intrigue in those matches. So you can maybe get away with having this on the show, but I can't say I'm excited about it in the slightest.
Pretty disappointing if that is the route. I really think it should have just been Jacob versus Cody. I guess they didn't want to have Fatu job out. You could have done some way of him losing and maybe Solo cost him, and then you do the turn on that, right? Maybe people would cheer Fatu over Cody. I'm not quite sure, but going back to Solo, it already didn't work. It already was a pretty big a pretty big fail there.
I mean, you got away with it at SummerSlam because it was the big Roman return, so you left the crowd happy that night, but we also had the cage match. We had another singles match. We had it already. We've had this match about 3 times at least, plus live events and all that. So it's really just Cody. And a lot of his reign has been like this. It's been these kind of, I mean, the Owens feud has been by far the best thing that's happened in Cody's run since winning the title. But I also think just still kind of bringing Cody back into this bloodline world, we're ready to move on from that. And it's really just a holding position until Mania, I think.
It's pretty disappointing. It's very if they didn't have, they haven't added it, but we'll get into, it looks like it's Sami versus Kevin in Canada in the Dome. That's enough for me. I brutally honest, I will pay to go watch that match. This is doing the opposite effect where it's wait, I don't even want to watch this match. So why would I want to go watch this in person? So it is a tough one. It's a bit of a stinker. I think this is a really bad move. And I'm like, really? Look at the roster right now. You could have had anyone attack this dude. You could have had anyone attack Cody and be like, oh, this is something new or something refreshing. But no, it's like you could have, I guess because Drew is in the chamber, you couldn't go Drew, Cody. That's like a bigger match, I think, down the line. But this is
Drew will be Cody's sort of backlash match, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I just think this is so disappointing. And I hope the rest of the, like, this is going to be a 5-match card, I guess.
What would you give Cody if it wasn't like, what would you give him to do for this show?
If it's not this, fucking anyone else, dude.
Frank is suggesting, and actually maybe this would be better. There's still a few weeks. Make it a tag. Like if you had Jay and Cody against Solo and so, Jacob or something like that.
That's probably right.
I take that because I don't think anyone's buying Solo winning this title. So
yeah,
I'd be actually Frank is on a like I'd be way more down for that, and I think that could be pretty fun adding Jacob and Jay into the mix. But I take that over this.
It's also like we've already seen like that's a SmackDown match. We've seen it. We just saw it on TV with like we've seen these matches multiple times. The Bloodline Vortex is stinky. I hate it. I want it so done with. But like here we go again. It's like rinse repeat with this shit. Like Solo Sikoa just ain't it. And I can't believe I'm so like dumbfounded that they go with this direction. I assume, like, I guess the tag match is more exciting than just the one-on-one, but even that still
it'll be a more fun match to watch. And as I said, with the rest of the dressing, with the chamber matches and Owen Sammy, I think that would be a higher quality card than having.
Is that your card though?
Challenge.
Women's chamber, men's chamber, tag match, Sammy, Kevin. That's 4 matches. Like 5.
They did 4 last year. You could throw in a like women's title match for either title or the or a tag title match, I guess. But yeah, I know last year was 4 matches. I'd hope we'd get 5. But we'll see.
Like the chamber matches usually go an hour.
Yeah.
That's already cutting into a big chunk of like that's 2 hours right there. Yeah. So like
Kevin, Sammy with entrances and videos should be 30. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I didn't necessarily love that ending with SmackDown and the stuff. I liked the show opening with the crowd again telling everybody why. Hey, why did Jey Uso win the Rumble? Watch the show and you'll see every crowd. Even me at home now, I'm like, it's just me, Us. Day one-ish. I love him starting in the crowd, going through the encore thing is hilarious. Like having the crowd.
Oh, you want it again? Sure.
You want it one more time? Yeah. Jay teasing the match with Cody. Like again, they have the history there. That's pretty cool. Like that's clearly not the direction we're gonna go towards. But like, I think it's great that they're like friendly and good promo. I thought between the two.
I felt this SmackDown basically confirmed for me. I don't think that's the match we're going to, but it confirmed to me that Jey Uso will be main eventing night 1. The fact that did you see his t-shirt they're printing?
Main event Jey Uso?
Main event WrestleMania Jey Uso. Like I'm pretty sure he's main eventing night 1. And you can, I know they said before, this is a triple main event show or whatever, but I feel it would feel at this point kind of weird to sort of, his name is main event Jey Uso. His shirt is WrestleMania main event Jey Uso. He won the Rumble. I think you can get away with a 2-night show with all these bigger matches. You can have this be night 1 main event, I think.
I love how his name is just main event Jey Uso. Yeah. Like imagine some wrestler had Curtain Jerker as the name of his given name.
Also, we need I want the tag match because I want to be able to yeet.
Yeah, we got to yeet.
I want to yeet all over the Rogers Center.
Yeah, we need to do that for sure. It makes sense. Like he's such a big character. The tag match makes a whole lot more sense to have him on the card and everything. Toronto will wild out for sure.
But so you don't buy him and Cody at all. We're still pretty sure it's him and Gunther.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the story that we go towards. And Gunther might have to lose at WrestleMania, but that's okay. Like just give it to the guy. Like he doesn't have to have a long reign, but just give this title to this guy. Like. He's improved in the ring. I know he's got his critics, and sometimes he's not my most favorite to watch, but you can't deny the character right now. The fans are behind it. Like, he's selling tickets, he's moving merch. Like, he's the guy right now with everything. So it's not like my most interesting part going into this year's WrestleMania season, but you can't deny. Look,
I think it'll be feel good as well. You know,
Yeah,
WrestleMania is about moments. I think it's something where even if the match isn't up to like the greatest match ever,
I'm sure it'll be up better than the last time. And like,
I think it will. And I actually, the Saturday night's main event, I thought the last like stretch, like the last five plus minutes, I really got into. If we can get the beginning of the match as interesting as that as well, that would be cool. But, you know, you're going to have this sold out stadium in Vegas yeeting, and, you know, the brothers out there raising Jay up and crying, and it'll be feel good. We were there for Kofi Mania, and it's, I see it being a similar kind of thing for that.
Yeah. Like seeing the guy, like, he's been in the company for so long, he's stepped up, and I really think he deserves this like big spot and opportunity. So it's a good addition to like what's going on with the other characters in this year's Mania build. So I liked other stuff from SmackDown. We had Drew McIntyre come out and cut a promo since he's on SmackDown now, and he called Monday Night Raw a toxic workplace, which got a huge chuckle out of me. He shit all over Monday Night Raw, and then he shit all over everybody else. He called everybody, you know, bitches essentially. Then we had Jimmy Uso, as he called him Jay, which was like, oh, my bad. Sorry, Jimmy. And then we had LA Knight into the mix here because it was a triple threat, who cut a fantastic promo, basically saying like, hey, boys and men, it's okay to cry once in a while, but there is a line, and Drew McIntyre and just continues going off at him. I thought that was absolutely amazing. I loved the promo battle more than the match itself on SmackDown. It was very nice. It was very funny.
Yeah, I kind of got into the matchup points as well. I thought there was some cool spots in that like superplex German, superplex Tower of Doom thing spot was cool. I thought the Claymore BFT combo at the end was pretty cool. And I liked that they played into the sort of the internet, you know, the dirt sheets with LA Knight getting the line, oh, sorry, I got to get my stuff in. Mm-hmm. And then the sort of awkward, like felt like kind of, you know, staged, uncooperative brawl that LA Knight and Drew had in the match. So I thought it added a little bit to a match that had sort of very little build to it. But obviously Drew getting in the chamber there. I thought Jimmy came across well as well. I thought his promo was pretty strong. Mm-hmm. I think just go, Nakamura's doing nothing with that belt. Why not just give it to Jimmy? Like, that. Like, people are into these characters. Get it on a bigger name. Have, like, you know, Jimmy's story now is everyone else in the family has sort of surpassed him, and now his brother is going to be likely a world champion. So why not give Jimmy a bit of a US title run? But I thought he came across pretty well on his promo.
Yeah, he had the crowd in the palm of his hand as well. It really helped. He made it look like it was all choreographed, because he's like, I can say yeet, and then he pointed and they did it for him, and he's like, I can also say no yeet, and like he pointed and they did it as he was doing the thing. I was like, man, like that is what you hear wrestlers talk about. Like, reason why they never want to ever retire is having that like crowd of thousands of people react exactly how you wanted them to, and it was very. I thought he came across like, oh wait, we can't forget about Jimmy. Wait. Jimmy's still pretty fun. I think you're right. Give him the US title. Why not? Like, Nakamura, just wet fart of a run.
He won it and has done nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
the ghost of Nakamura, I guess we should say. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good segment between Jimmy, LA Knight, and Drew.
It was pretty funny though, because I think Drew had the line about, you know, it could have been you if you just said yeet first. And I found someone on Twitter found an image of, it's like from 2021 or something like that, of Jimmy wearing a sweater with yeet on it.
Ooh.
So like maybe
it's kind of like I know maybe dated now, but Drake started YOLO, but it actually wasn't him. It was Rick Ross on a song with Drake. And then Drake was like, hey, that's pretty good. And then got a sweater made. And Rick Ross was like, oh, nice, YOLO. And then Drake went and started using it. And Rick Ross was like, man, I kind of said it first, but
sorry.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna blame Drake for YOLO anyway.
Yeah. We still do, but yeah, I like YOLO, but yeah, I like Yeet as well. I mean, Yeet was a thing too before, but wrestling terms, like you took something and made it into the wrestling world, which is a whole other thing. But I actually think you're right. I think Jimmy should be given like the U.S. title run, and he's still a hot character right now, and he's way more interesting as a baby face than if he were to still just be like with the bloodline or whatever.
You know, having that end of night one, Jimmy and Jay in the ring,
exactly,
U.S. title and world title, like,
and Rikishi, and they all do the fucking dance. Book it.
I love how Rikishi, it's like he was going off like months ago. Why aren't they like Jey Uso should be in the main event? Jey Uso should win the world title. And now they're giving him his story, and he's like, "Yo, what about Jimmy? What?" It's like Rikishi, like, come on, like. This is the hottest they've ever been. They've surpassed you at this point. Like, just give it time, Keish.
There's other wrestlers who have kids, okay? Come on. Chill, bro. Come on.
We also had...
Who else would you... Sorry to cut you off, but who else would you add to that chamber? You said it. Like, that's a pretty stacked 3 already. Cena, Punk, and Drew. Who else?
Punk, Drew.
Who else are we adding to that?
Priest.
Okay, right, yeah.
Logan. And what's the other match? I'm missing someone there. Seth.
Seth. Sorry, of course. Yeah, that's a pretty stacked chamber.
It's whether we have, I think because it looks like they're going Drew and Priest for Mania. You can have that like spin off from Chamber, but part of me would really like to see Jacob Fatu in that match as well.
Yes, he's definitely caught fire very, very quickly. So you could definitely, I think he'll be in that tag match that we were referencing before. But another thing from SmackDown was the video sent in. What's wrong?
Sorry, can we just go in order? Because I've got everything queued up and you're hopping all over the place.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. We had the Charlotte confronting Tiffany for the as the Rumble winner to suss her out. And this time, are they going to boo her or cheer her? They don't know. They don't know what to do, this crowd. But Charlotte coming across very heelish here, telling Tiff that she needs to kneel down and beg if she wants the title match at Mania.
I really like Tiffany bringing up the fact of like things people do say, like, oh, hey, ever since I got here, people just called me a knockoff. But like, look at me. I'm not that anymore. I'm like surpassing you, which I believe that, actually. I mean, Charlotte, we've had a lot of good stuff with you, but wrestling has moved on and has evolved. And I'd say you're not necessarily, the queen isn't needed anymore. In fact, the queen is dead, and some would say, maybe in the UK. But like Tiffany in 1 year has put on more impressive, more entertaining stuff for me personally than Charlotte has in the last few years. I'm not taking away anything Charlotte has done in her career in WWE because she's had some matches and moments that I've absolutely loved. But the character of Charlotte right now, I'm not quite sure if we need her as a babyface. So this is the right direction to put her like, hey, now you're cheering me, now you're booing me kind of thing. This is the WrestleMania match I hope we get. I mean, here they are teasing it. We're a few months out, but this should absolutely be the match. Just like Charlotte trying to big sister her here ended up getting the crowd way behind Tiffany in this segment, which is like, okay, yeah, we should go with this match is what I got out of this.
Yeah, I also think, like, I think there's a lot, I've heard a lot of people be like, you know what, I'd rather Charlotte and Rhea part 3, which I think is a huge match. I know we've seen it twice already, but as the rubber match, we know they deliver on these big stages, those two. But the only thing with that is at this point, I don't see what who Tiffany's opponent would be. Yeah. And I think there's other options for Rhea, whereas there aren't necessarily other options for Tiffany. So I think this one makes sense. I think playing into the Charlotte, belittling her a lot more will work. Tiffany's got to find now, as a babyface, a way to kind of keep her sort of, you know, Sharpay High School Musical, like bratty, spoilt blonde character, whilst having it be endearing as well. And I think that's because what you don't want is her to lose that, which you often see, you know, when people start getting into a heel because they're, you know, a bit of a prick or a little cheeky or whatever, and then they become babyface and they're just squeaky clean and they lose what made them popular in the first place. And I think Tiffany needs to kind of find that balance. And in a way, I know this will mean nothing to you and you'll roll your eyes, but like she should be looking at Glinda in Wicked, like Ariana Grande's character, because that's exactly that. It's someone who starts off as a bitch, and then as the film goes on, you're like, she's still a bitch, but I really like her, and she does have a heart in there as well. So I think Tiffany needs to find that. Otherwise, she could just look at being just, you know, weak and submissive to Charlotte, which won't be good for this story. So it's how these promo battles and segments are going to move on forward with, trying to progress Tiffany rather than just have her be belittled. And I don't know if she's got that in her yet or not.
Like, she still seems like she's kind of like the character she was. Like, she hasn't, like, she's babyface, but at the same time, it's like she's still kind of that meaner character. But I think I know what you mean. And I think so far she's doing a good job of kind of keeping that the Tiffany character. Like, she got popular in NXT with the Daddy's Little Rich Girl, and then completely moved away from that, and then like succeeded even further. So I think she's done a good job of like evolving very, very quickly in WWE from not only the character but the wrestling. Like, I am thinking this is one of the biggest women's matchups that WWE could produce. Like, these two, considering Charlotte for the last 10 years has been, you know, the queen of WWE women's division, essentially. Like, you know, it's either her or Sasha or Becky that have become like the biggest stars in the women's wrestling. And here you have Tiffany, not even a year in main roster, becoming champion and becoming like a huge star in this show. Again, this crowd reaction every show she's on proves that. So, you know, I do think this is the biggest women's match that they could go with. And I think this is clear that they're going to go in this direction. And I think Tiffany should beat her. So that might not happen.
She should. I don't think she will.
I don't think she will, but
I feel they'll do very similar to they did with Rhea, where Tiffany comes up short the first time round. But it is a big match. And like I thought week one was good, but I'm still like, because I think both, like, I find Charlotte rocky on this character because she's come out, she hasn't established what this new version of Charlotte is, because they're trying to work out, wait, did the crowd like her or hate her? The crowd are trying to work out whether they like her or hate her. So I could see there being like a few missteps along the way. I'm sure the match is going to be good regardless, but I'm hoping they pick it up.
Yeah.
We also had the Kevin Owens sending a video in from his car, justifying his actions for attacking, what's his name?
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn, that's his name. Yes.
Yes. Kevin Owens gave Sami Zayn a package pile driver, and then now they're saying Sami's got spinal compression and nerve damage from this package pile driver that Kevin has hit him with. And then Kevin Owens sends in a video from his car. I love the Kevin Owens car videos here. Just like any wrestler who sends you a cameo or an interview, do it from their car, like a real worker. Respect it. Kevin Owens saying, Sami Zayn, you did nothing for me last weekend. Therefore, you are a horrible friend and a disgusting person. How does a character that we love so much, but even more we love to hate? Again, this match writes itself. You want to fill the Sky Dome, you announce this match, and it seems like we're going to get that announcement very soon. He basically says, you're going to pay for what you did. This delusional heel taking it to another level. Like, yeah, Sami was out there in your corner. I watched the show. Sami looked like he was in your corner more than he was Cody, but you're mad he didn't help you beat Cody. And that's what I love about this story. And of course, the years of history that he kind of references here, but calling him a horrible friend and a disgusting person just sent it over the top for me. And I can't wait to see this match. Make it unsanctioned, make it insane. Ole, ole, ole. Toronto is going to go nuts for these two Quebecers for sure.
Yeah, I think the best villains are the ones who completely believe in what they're doing and believe that their actions are justified. And I thought, like, because I completely forgot that Sammy helped Roman in the Rumble, and that was the tipping point. It was first you didn't help me when Cody was trying to end my life, but then you did help Roman later in the night, and that was kind of the tipping point. Now, as sort of us watching it, we're like, yeah, but Kevin, Sammy was in a match against multiple people, including Roman Reigns, when he wasn't in the match with you, and you agreed to that match with Cody and that kind of thing. But it's heel logic that makes sense. It's not, Swerve, I'm bad, so I attacked you. It's, you completely get, and I think Kevin's delivery in his lines, you completely believe him. You completely believe that he believes what he's saying is the truth. And yeah, I just think he's on one of the best runs of his WWE career right now. And he's had some great runs in WWE.
Yeah.
But just signed the contract for 5 more years. And
right.
And I think just he's such a great asset to this company, because I think you can put him in so many different roles as a babyface or a heel, and he's always going to be on that upper mid card to like top of the card when you need him to be.
I was saying, like, the last few months, like, man, I really want him to like be elevated, to be like pushed better, to be something. Like, it just felt like the Owens of the last few years wasn't the character and the wrestler that I like, watched all these years. And here it is. Like, this has been so good. And it's basically, I'm getting what I want as a fan. And it's Kevin Owens being this deranged heel, and he's feuding with Sami Zayn, and it's going to culminate with them fighting in the Sky Dome in Toronto. Like, yeah, this is absolutely perfect. I'm loving this. Them selling the move, the package pile driver. It's so dangerous. Look, it took out he did the normal pile driver to Randy, but he did the pile driver to Cody that hurt him, and then he does it now to Sammy. Like, this is everything.
There was something so special about seeing it on Sammy, though.
Yeah, of course.
It was like, oh.
Do we see it at the Sky Dome though?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah,
like, he's got to end the match. I imagine Kevin beats him at this point. I don't know what their direction both these wrestlers go towards WrestleMania, considering
I think Owens and Randy at Mania.
Right.
But where Sammy fits in, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is, like I kind of said, this is we're in Toronto, we are Canadians, and this is the match that I think, even teasing right now, that most people are like, shit, all right, where are those ticket prices at? This is the match that will have people's full on attention, and everything else to me is just an extra. And if Solo versus Cody is added, that will be the washroom break, because I ain't missing this one.
There's something about Braden, there's going to be like half an hour between matches. You're not going to need a bathroom break between, unless you just actively don't want to watch it. You're not going to need a bathroom break at these shows anymore.
The commercial, the chamber being put down.
There's plenty of time in between. It's going to be a 5-hour show.
Cricket Wireless, Applebee's, Monopoly, whatever the ads are.
It's something like, I love watching wrestling with lots of moves and that kind of thing. But on the same week, watching Owens hit this package pile driver on Sami Zayn, and it's devastating, and it's taking Sami out of action for a few weeks or whatever. And then I flick on Collision last night, and Shane Taylor, who barely is on, well, he's never on Dynamite really, sometimes wrestles on Collision, hits a huge package pile driver in the middle of his match, and it's just like a move. And it does go to show, I think, at times, like, the fact it was the same week, it was kind of really glaring to me. I'm just like, man, like, I don't want to sound like one of those old heads, but there is something in protecting some moves there. Like, you've had this huge angle on the one company of using this move, and you're just seeing this guy who I'm sure a lot of people who watch AEW don't even know who he is, hitting a package pile driver mid-match. It was kind of weird and glaring to me.
Is that how Sean felt when everyone started doing super kicks? He's like, fuck. Like, people did super kicks before, Sean. Yeah. People have done, but package pile driver is a few people's different finishers. Like even now, the RKO has become like a mid-match move for a lot of wrestlers, and it's like, hey, isn't that like a protected move?
Like, I get the argument, like it's how you hit it, and this person just hits it better than anyone, but a package pile driver is one of the most devastating looking moves. Fair. It is, and I don't know. I feel like I know you're different companies, but to hit it in a week where a company with a lot more eyes on it than you has it as a big angle and just doing it mid-match, it was just like, come on.
I think the bigger issue is Shane Taylor Promotions keeps getting pushed on AEW TV when I don't think that is a character or a storyline that has anyone buzzing about anything. And that's no disrespect to the wrestlers in it. It's just like, really? Like,
yeah.
I tried watching Collision. I skipped so much of it because I'm like, how is this a show that is put on TV? Like, we'll get into that in just a second because I really thought the stuff with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, like the storytelling here is great. Obviously, if you know the history, it's like one of these like Marvel big movies. Like if you don't watch all these other movies for all these years and everything, you'll still understand that this guy attacked his friend, hit him with this devastating moves, and now is deranged enough to call him like a terrible friend. But if you do know everything and you have watched everything from the past, it's like meaning so much more. And there's like so many little things. So I'd say this is the big match. Of course, we've seen Sami versus Kevin before many, many times. And this one should be this one is going to be the most special to them, I'm sure, like taking place inside this stadium in Canada. They don't do stadium shows in Canada very often because we don't really have stadiums in Canada, but we do have the Sky Dome. So this is the match. And as soon they haven't announced it yet. So I hope we're not getting ahead of the curve, but it definitely sounds like that's the match that we're getting. So unsanctioned ladder war, whatever it has to be. I want El Generico and Kevin Steen inside the Sky Dome. Not something we would have on our bingo card years and years and years ago, but I'm so happy that we are. So everything else is just extra. This is the match for me. I cannot wait.
Yeah, me neither. Very excited. We also had Alexa Bliss return to ring. I thought she looked good. You know, she's not wrestled for 2 years. I think it can't be easy coming back. I wonder, she's kind of a bit of a dark horse because she has come back with a lot of popularity. Whether you slot her into whether you have plans for her for Mania or not, the sort of static screen showed up during it. So wonder if anything's going to come with the Wyatt 6. Is that like a Nikki Cross feud? I don't know, but she seemed like a prominent figure. She had a big reaction at the Rumble when she returned.
Yeah.
And I thought her reaction on SmackDown was pretty big. So I'm just wondering what her direction is and whether she'll be featured into Mania.
Yeah, she's never been one of my like favorites, but at the same time, she's a pretty big star for WWE, and like the return is always a big thing. So I felt like they maybe did a misstep here of like not having her talk or a video or something fell off with just having her wrestle Candice LeRae. So like it's cool that she's back, and I think it helps and adds things like another wrinkle into their roster right now, but doesn't really move a needle necessarily for myself.
Yeah, I think she should hopefully next week talk or something, but I'd say maybe if Charlotte picks Rhea, I think that could be a Tiffany match, but I don't know, or maybe Chelsea Green. I'm not really sure, but I do see it being figured into Mania somehow.
Yeah.
We had the Street Profits cut a promo on video, which I thought kind of made up for what happened at Royal Rumble. I thought they sounded really good. I like that they've got a bit more of an edge. I like the kind of new look and the suits and stuff. So I'm excited to see them mix in with Machine Guns and DIY. It's kind of like, hey, we had all these title matches and you guys kept fucking around and we kept losing them or being DQ'd or whatever. So we don't care anymore.
I don't care anymore, actually. I don't like this. Like, I was really disappointed from last week at the Royal Rumble. Like, that match was a big letdown for me, actually. Like, two of my favorite tag teams, dare I say, maybe of all time. And they kind of shit the bed a little bit. I watched the match twice to go like, was I crazy? Does this match suck? And it did. And like, these guys were involved. That why was like, they're explaining here why, but is this Chamber or is this Mania that we're getting the like 3-team, maybe a 3-team ladder match? I'm not sure, but they really did a number. Like having crickets for DIY and crickets for Machine Guns is very interesting, considering we're in an era of like crowds really reacting to big characters. I don't know what the misstep is with the tag division right now, but something needs to happen. Like, how is the Machine Guns just people aren't aware of them? in WWE audiences just don't know who they are, or DIY isn't clicking. I'm not sure what is going on, because again, I thought that was just a layup with DIY Machine Guns. It should be an easy W and an easy way to attract some interest and inject some life into this tag division, but it really didn't.
I don't like DIY as heels. I think they look like geeks. I think
that could be it. Yeah,
I think they're. I think when you're like, both are obviously a little smaller compared to a lot of people on the main roster. I think when you play that underdog story, it works. I think it worked so well. Them chasing the titles in NXT, that whole the whole revival feud, and that elevated them, just match quality. I'm not interested in watching them as heels. I find, like, you know, big Johnny Gargano fan here. I find his promos really annoying and like subpar compared to a lot of stuff going on. So that's part of it. And then on the other side, I find Machine Guns, to a lot of this audience, they still don't necessarily know who they are. Like, for a lot of this audience, they've just come in and they've just been told that these guys are good. Like, oh, they're your favorite tag team's favorite tag team. But we haven't like seen enough that's particularly interesting from them yet. I thought they started off well with the whole Bloodline thing and taking the titles off them. I thought that was a great start, but they cut that short really early. I'm hoping Street Profits bring something into this, because I think they've kind of been misused the last couple of years. They've got put in the stable with Lashley, which it went nowhere, and then Lashley left and they got injured. I thought this vignette from the two really kind of felt like a fresh coat of paint on them, and I'm hoping this brings a bit more interest into the tag division, because, you know, your WWE audience do know who these guys are. They have got into these guys before, and hopefully it can like elevate the division up a bit.
Yeah, like that's the direction. Like, if that's the Mania match, you could imagine the three teams against each other, or maybe they face.
It's pretty
DIY.
deadly are in the mix as well. They'll be facing DIY for the titles soon as well.
Yes, boy. Yeah, I just feel like something is not working with it, considering you're getting big reactions for your big popular characters. But when the tag champs come out, it's like quiet. And when Machine Guns come out, it's quiet. I'm like, what is the disconnect there? I'm not quite sure. But going forward with a newer version of the Street Profits, I think is the right direction. But yeah, I can't figure out why I did not like anything with the tag titles in the last little while. But maybe it's DIY as heels just doesn't gel properly. But yeah.
Is that it for WWE this week?
I think so. Yeah, we talked a bit about Raw on Tuesday with Up Next. I'm sure we'll talk about this coming Raw from February 10th on Tuesday as well, when we talk about some NXT. And we got the Road to Vengeance Day next weekend. I think we've pretty much covered everything there with WWE. We got Chamber in a few weeks, like we said. So it's full force. It feels like WWE is very, very hot right now. I'm seeing it covered on so many different things. The Rumble being talked about, a lot of like casual fans in the mix again. So the machine is rolling. The machine's on fire for sure.
Let's move over to AEW Dynamite. We had Will Ospreay kicking things off and against a mystery member of the Don Callis family, and everyone all day was going, please not Trent, please not Trent. And then, well, it wasn't Trent. It was
Trent.
Mark Davis.
What? But I thought he wasn't. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I said the machine of WWE is very, very hot right now, on fire. But can't say the same for AEW. Now, I love me some AEW. I love all wrestling. But they feel like they're on an island of their own and just fighting and scrapping for people to watch and be invested. And it's very, very tough. I'd say the last few weeks has just been like really a bit of a slog to feel like invested and feel like really like engaged in it. I'm not knocking Mark Davis. I actually thought the match was pretty good. That pile driver he hit on Ospreay was pretty innovative. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but like that was fine. I kind of had that in the back of my head, like, hey, wouldn't it just make sense for this guy to still be affiliated with the other guys? Because if he were to be like Ospreay's opponent instead of Omega at this match, it wouldn't have the same like buzz around it, right?
I like Mark Davis. I can't see anything in him as a singles act. Aussie Open were a great team. Mm-hmm. It's obviously stuff you can go to when you want to keep Kyle out of a singles feud or whatever. I felt this was just a lifeline to him. Otherwise, he could have very much been a Giovanni Vinci coming out of this breakup. So him coming out, part of me was like, good, okay, good. You're kind of a little safer than you were a week ago. Yeah. But yeah, it's this version of the Don Callis family definitely feels less than it used to be. It feels like Bloodline 2.0. It feels like Judgment Day 2.0. It's when you see it's like Kyle, Cage, Archer, and Mark Davis, it does seem a lot more budget than it was.
Like, just have the two guys. Just have Fletcher and Takeshita. Like, those two are fucking great. They're great wrestlers right now that are like, stepping up to the plate. Whereas like Cage, Archer, and Davis kind of bring it down.
When Paul Heyman, the Paul Heyman guys, and he brings in Curtis Axel and Ryback, and you're like, you had such like a level of prestige with your clients.
Exactly.
You had Lesnar, you had Punk, and then it's we're trying to put a label on these guys to try and make them work, whereas it kind of should be the other way around a bit. Not knocking the guy, as I said, I feel like this was a bit of a lifeline, but it was definitely one of those, mystery graphics. Oh, who's it going to be? And then Will is like, hey, you slept in my house as well. It's everyone, just so many spare beds at the Ospreys.
It's wrestling, yeah. I feel like don't tease something so big. They had the video, the promo where he was like, yeah, who says there's only this many of us? And it's like, well, it's not Trent, which I think people maybe were happy with, but this guy is just a side character. And whereas I think the focus should be on Takeshita, the focus should be on Fletcher. And I'm really looking forward to that match. I'm not sure when I'm going to watch it because I don't think anyone knows when they're going to actually watch
they've announced it now. It's happening after the NBA.
We can discuss maybe Grand Slam in a little bit, but other stuff from Dynamite that maybe you want to talk about. I know that we had Tony Storm.
Yeah, and we had the glamour Tony Storm.
Yes, very nice. I loved when Mariah did the Tony Storm thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sucker for when wrestlers cosplay as their other wrestlers. Like maybe not DX is the Nation, but I'm, thinking back to Jeff Hardy, CM Punk, or DX dressing up as Vince and Shane.
Miz as The Rock,
Yeah, sure. So like having Mariah dress up as Tony was pretty awesome, but I got such a laugh out of this. And then the reaction from Mariah too, when they kept cutting to her, but it was probably like an SNL sketch for Tony where she's trying to not make herself laugh here. When she was doing the bit with the finger in her mouth and everything, I was laughing at that. So she looked a lot like her. Maybe it's just the way they do themselves up with the makeup and the hair extensions and all that stuff. But
I think it's why this feud has worked so well though, because I think both are so invested. I think RJ City probably has to take a lot of credit for it, but the performances and the acting down to, sometimes these kind of things can be quite hokey and just bad. But I think it was from both when Mariah did it for Tony as well, it was the attention to detail that made it like really like look like them. And you'd have to double take at times, be like, oh wow, no, that isn't Mariah, that is Tony. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I see this being the main event of Grand Slam. I think it should be. I think they had a great match at Wembley last year. I think with the crowd for Tony here could be awesome. And I am enjoying this feud. It's a feud that's gone on for a long time. Obviously, there's been a pause when Tony left, but they're still managing to keep my attention and interest in the feud as well.
I thought she looked awesome as Mariah May. Like, I love this feud. I love this stuff with Tony. I think, this could be your main event. If it's not that, it's the tag match with Omega Powers. But I thought this was a good way to keep that feud going. And the stuff she's doing, it might not be for everyone, the like amnesia stuff, etc. Like, but she puts her heart and soul. And like, we were talking about wrestlers being released or leaving WWE and then, maybe trying a name for themselves. Like, it's crazy that she took a chance on herself and like has complete control and freedom, creativity and all this stuff. And it's really working for me. I think she's a standout in the women's division, like the best women's star they've had in AEW, full stop. Mercedes coming in was kind of I don't want to say a flop, but a bit of a bust, a bit of a rocky road to begin with. But like Tony, this complete run has been very, very entertaining. So I'm looking forward to this match. She should win the title back in Australia.
Yeah, and I think you should do Tony and Mercedes at Grand Slam. You know,
no, you mean All In?
At All In, yeah. Mercedes
with
the like belt collector gimmick against Tony. They're the two biggest stars.
Tony beats her.
Sure, yeah,
absolutely.
We also have been continuing this sort of MJF legend killer gimmick. We're going to Texas next week, which means out comes Dustin Rhodes. How are you feeling about this? Because I've been kind of hot and cold on the whole thing. Like I liked MJF and Jarrett going at it after MJF finished the Cole thing. I thought it was just a bit of a fresh start for MJF. And then that kind of got a bit weird and awkward. Dustin, I think, is a great promo and is still very good in ring. So it's a match I'm kind of looking forward to see on TV. But you've got Hangman inserted into all this as well, because it's like Hangman was the legend killer killing Christopher Daniels, but showing remorse for it, whereas MJF actively wants to end these old timers' career. So are we building to Hangman MJF at Revolution? We've still got the Jeff match to come. Like as I said, I'm kind of hot and cold on it. And I think this week I quite liked it. I think last week I didn't. Maybe my main issue with it is just the fact it's happening at the same time as we're having Cope go for the AEW title. And, you know, it just feels a lot of sort of old timers around at the same time. But I think in isolation, I am enjoying this.
Yeah, like I'm still a big fan of MJF, but I feel like maybe this is like keeping him in the cooler a little bit, considering like he's one of your big stars and he could be used a little differently. I'm not hating on like this is a TV program, because again, I think this is leading to MJF versus Dustin on TV, and then Hangman versus MJF at like a pay-per-view makes a lot more sense. So like that's a pretty big feud that we could go towards. Be prepared for MJF to bring up CM Punk references in that feud. Of course, he likes to break that kind of fourth wall a little bit. So as a TV feud, yeah, but I can't say I'm like in 2025 that interested in seeing so much of Goldust on TV, but used sparingly, like the legends in wrestling, you can't forget they paved the way and stuff. And like he gets a big reaction still, especially if it's Texas.
I think these stories work though. Like we saw it with Randy Orton, the legend killer thing. If you think of the Jericho stuff with Steamboat, Piper, Snooker, like it can work. And I'm just trying to think who else is there they've got that could kind of continue on this sort of legend killer thing MJF's doing.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like maybe they didn't know exactly what to do. Again, once you're champion and you're forgotten about, it's like you're just put aside and they can't necessarily figure, like, this is clearly leading to Hangman MJF, but at the same time, like, I don't know if that's the best use of these guys. I know they haven't necessarily had like big rivalries and stuff. I'm sure they fought that we've watched in AEW, but I'm not sure. Just considering how bad the main title picture is right now, and how like bad is the word. Yeah, it's just bad. And like you have MJF, you have a Hangman, you have all this Swerve, you have Ospreay, you have all these characters that are so over, yet they're on an island far, far away from what is supposed to be like your championship. And I don't know, it just seems all a little messy to me.
So we had Cope attacking Moxley. We've got the the Brisbane Brawl or whatever it is set up with Cope and Jay White taking on Moxley and Claudio, is it? Or Yuta, or one of them, I believe. This is going to be the Revolution match, which is still a way away. It's the Death Riders were not on TV quite as much this week. We did have a promo from Mox on Collision, basically saying there's a lot of reasons why I don't want to give you this match, Cope, but the main one is I don't like you. It's like, yeah, that's kind of how inspired this feud is. But man, this is dragging the show down. Seeing Mox with those boring men behind him pace around, pretending to be mean. It's so dull. And like, I need them to pull the plug on this as soon as possible, because you can't wait for Darby to successfully climb a mountain.
They are.
It's killing the promotion at this point, I think.
It's very, very bad. So much that for the first time ever, I didn't watch a Dynamite. Last week, don't know what happened. But you know what? It seems like I didn't miss anything, because I watched this week's and felt like I didn't miss anything because we have the same old shit with this Death Rider story. Like all of the guys in it seem uninterested. All of them like seem like, we're just getting through this. We just have to get through this. It's like every day waking up at your job. You're like, I just gotta get past this week, and I'll be in better spirits the next week. It's like, yeah, but are we waiting all the way till Texas All In for Darby versus Mox? Because we might not make it. And I mean your fan base of viewers are gonna like fall off really quickly as I am very uninterested in this story. I still love this promotion. There's still a lot of good stuff going on. There was stuff from Dynamite that I did like. I thought this week was pretty good. But your main title picture is this story. Your main story is supposed to be your strongest story, and it's just not.
It's one of the things when we're putting together the show beforehand, and it's like, what happened this week? I always completely forget about anything Death Rider related. And this is the world title. I'm always like, oh yeah, and then what happened with these guys? Like
the same thing every week. It's like attacking people. The title's in a box. We don't even know what the title looks like at this point. It's like, I don't know. Can we not just like move away? Now on the Collision promo, Mox brought up like Copeland, I'll fight you. I won't fight you here. I won't fight you there. I won't fight you anywhere. He referenced Cincinnati and he referenced Toronto. I do imagine AEW announces a pay-per-view for Toronto. Like it's been now 2 years. They did Dynamite and stuff, but like I imagine we get a big show in 2025. So I don't think it'll be Cope versus Mox. I think that's saved for
that'll be Revolution.
Yeah. I just like at this point, give Cope the title. Like just move away from this. Like Moxley we've seen he's so much better than this. This is just the most uninteresting story in the title.
Like, I mean, this could, if we are wanting to sort of pivot, as I said, like MJF legend killer thing, get the title on Cope as a way to get it back to MJF, and then you have you teased a Swerve MJF match like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
You've got Hangman. You've got so many more interesting opponents with MJF being champion, perhaps, and we can have a bit of a re-go of him as champ because the end of that run sucked as well. So
yeah,
I maybe that's why the fact we're gonna get in on an older person, and MJF is going through this vendetta about old people. So maybe that's the direction and why they're doing this thing.
That makes sense, but like
I'd rather see MJF take it from Edge than Christian, because then it's just more and more like going down this hole.
That is something we have too, where Christian has this, contract cash-in thing that he will use eventually. So, I mean, Edge as champion does make sense that he would use it on him, considering the history, even in AEW. So I'm not sure. There needs to be some rejigging of some things in AEW, because I do think we have all these wrestlers, like we have talented and big stars that people like, but we're not using them correctly. It just feels like maybe because WWE is so hot right now that we're looking at this like under a microscope. We're like really like nitpicking, but at the same time, it's like everyone can attest like this Death Rider stuff just isn't good, and it drags everything down. If this is your main program, it drags everything else, the interest level down, ticket sales down. Like it's just not working. And of course, we're still going to watch. The pay-per-views always still hit, but the TV as of right now is not very interesting.
Something I have been enjoying, and it is only the second month of the year, but I know at my end of best and worst of list, some things are going to be changing, because you know what, Ricochet, he's won me over.
Wow.
And had his match with Swerve, winning with the inadvertent low blow from the Swerve stomp, and then taking Jimmy Rave's robe. And we even saw in Collision that Ricochet shows up at a Defy show wearing the robe, and Swerve attacks him there. So I've been enjoying this feud. I think this is the most interesting Ricochet has ever been, in my opinion. It's all clicking now, and it's great to see. And even him wearing the robe, like it adds to his look and presentation, I think. So I was pretty high up on this.
Yeah, I mean, Ricochet on Twitter, he's been tweeting people because there's a lot of people have been saying the same thing, Davey. Like, hey, wait a second. Ricochet's, I'm kind of turning the corner. And Ricochet is tweeting people like, which he should maybe just put the phone down. But he's been tweeting, there's no room on this bandwagon anymore. You've made your decision, people. You too late. You can't join me now.
Okay, I'll hop off. I'm not that into
more effective heel work, I think. But you know what? Yeah. You're right. Like it is connecting for me too. I think it is really working. Dare I say, maybe my favorite part of the entire episode of Dynamite this week was the match with him and Swerve, which that's a pay-per-view match. Like you could easily rematch that at Revolution. And
I think they will. Yeah,
I think they will maybe add a little bit more violence to that because they're definitely capable of doing some more. But the Jimmy Rave jacket, like I've talked about how Swerve at All In came out with the Jimmy Rave stuff and Prince Nana, like Jimmy Rave, rest in peace, man. Your voice and your name is still being brought up on wrestling, and I know he would absolutely love that. So that is so fucking cool. But to bring it into storyline of Ricochet stealing this coat, this jacket, this robe thing from him, like I think this is another like sprinkle into like the wrestling world. So I really like this. That was my highlight of Dynamite, and it makes me want to see them wrestle again. And this new Ricochet character is totally working for me. It is one of the better things on TV this week for me, at least.
But the real main event of this week in AEW came on Collision.
Oh yeah.
And it was the halftime Harley show with Harley Cameron putting on a concert to get her title match against Mercedes, and cut a hell of a promo as well, I thought. I love this segment. I think Harley's probably going to get the biggest reaction on the show. At this point, I think bigger than Buddy, bigger than Tony. I thought this was great. And actually, I think for me, Mercedes came off better from it because I think she's actually against a babyface that people really care about. And I think it made Mercedes... Mercedes is an awkward promo and often just comes off as unlikable. But I thought her character came across as really unlikable here in a good way. I lost kind of some of that awkwardness, and I just thought they bounced off each other really well. And if you were to tell me like 6 months, a year ago that this is a match I'd be excited about, I'd laugh at you. But I think Harley Cameron's just done such a great job. The stuff with the ventriloquist puppet and singing her songs and just coming like, you're like, oh, she seems like a sweetheart and I really want to see her succeed. And I thought this was a home run, this segment for me.
It was so funny. Even the name Halftime Harley being the day before the Super Bowl. And then the song itself, like I know Joe Hendry had quite a hell of a year, but we saw him show up on NXT and we were like, really, this is the singer-songwriter gimmick? And his song sucked. And then here we have Harley with she is a cunning woman and like all these like jokes and stuff in the song. Like incredible that this woman is so funny, can actually sing, play the guitar, does a very good job at ventriloquism for some, I don't know where that came about, but like what the hell? How is, now what are we calling this? Is it Puppet Money or Mercedes Puppet? I'm not sure what the correct name of this puppet.
What has she called her? Yeah, I'm not sure.
However, it is my favorite thing. Like strap her up, give her the title. She should win. She should win, and that is how you pivot eventually to Mercedes versus Tony for the other title in a few months when we get to that. But like, I don't think that's going to happen. But like, dude, they should. That is strike while it's hot. This is the hottest she's been. Like Harley's stepped up completely. So I think this will be a very fun match, and the crowd being so behind Harley here, I think she has stepped up completely. With the puppet stuff is just, it was when the puppet was like, it was like C-3PO in Empire Strikes Back on the back of Chewbacca because she's singing and the puppet's just there and it's like the facial reaction.
Which I don't know, it made her come across like even sweeter. I think she's just got this happy puppet like strapped to her back and just, I don't know, I found her whole presentation really heartwarming here, and it made you almost feel like sad when Mercedes was being mean to her. Like, it's just, this has worked so well, and as I said, I think it's improving Mercedes in the process as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, I'm saying she should win because it's just like, look how over and this character and how far she's come from being just like a nobody in wrestling, to what she has become. I'm really impressed by everything that she does. So I really enjoyed that from Collision. Now, I thought you were going somewhere else when you said the highlight of AEW, because I know how much you love Hologram on AEW Collision.
Okay, this was,
what the fuck is that? What is this? A Power Ranger?
This segment was so weird because I thought it was like in such a short space of time, awful, fantastic, and awful again. Because look, you got this video. Look at this guy in his like duffel coat, brown hoodie with his shitty mask, power coming out of his hands. I was just laughing, like, and he's just walking in the street dressed like this, and then comes out with his shitty entrance, his shitty gear, and then hits the ring and looked fantastic. And this, I thought the crowd on Collision were awesome last night, and just we see a lot of luchadors, but the precision and speed he was hitting some of these moves, I was like, wow, yeah, this guy's great. And I can imagine people watching this, like especially kids, being like, whoa, this is awesome. And then Commander comes out again, and I'm like, now it's kind of shitty again. And I don't even know who LFI are at this point. It was
no idea.
What, Beast Mortis, Roosh, and who was the other guy? I don't know. But I found this segment like just my head was spinning because I was like, oh, this sucks. I was like, wow, this is great. Maybe not. So
it's like if Glacier was a luchador, essentially. Yeah. Like it's very weird, but at the same time, it's so silly that like it's wrestling, like it's wrestling. It's fine. But at the same time, like really, this is a character that gets reaction based off this crowd that were really hot for everything. You'd assume like this guy was one of the bigger stars in AEW.
It's the mouth. It's the mouth.
I hate this mask. Yeah, I hate this gimmick.
It's very strange.
If I was 10, I'd love this. So like maybe they're onto something, but at the same time, I don't know.
I think the look could definitely be improved. Yeah. I think the fact I see him turning on the H like light up thing before coming out is bad, but he looked
that's what does it for you, the guy turning it on.
No, it's you see him, he's in the dark and he's like
fumbling around,
switching it on, and then he lights up
and he takes it off anyways. So
but I think there was good stuff in this segment as well, is what I'm getting at.
We got a pretty crazy, I don't know if it was from him, I think it was from like I prefer Commander to Hologram. Like I don't think he hit the cleanest looking head scissors when he ran in the ring there, but I loved Commander's springboard flying backwards Poisonrana. I don't even know what the hell that was. That was pretty crazy. So like you do get some good lucha stuff on Collision, I guess. Collision is definitely not the show for me, but between seeing, I don't know if is Hologram like it's supposed to be some sort of Marvel character, an alien. I'm not quite sure.
He's a hologram.
Teleportation exists. But then between that and then like, again, it's silly, but it's wrestling. And like, that is why we love this stupid stuff. Between this and the showdown, the duel that happened on AEW Collision between Brian Keith, the bounty hunter, and Bandito, which was pretty funny considering both characters are like Western characters. I don't even really know. But then like they do the standoff in the match where they take a few steps and then turn around. I thought that was pretty great. And again, the crowd were just like eating it up there. So I thought that was what a ridiculous. We had Harley Cameron singing with a puppet on her back. Then we had a Mexican Western standoff with Brian Keith and Bandito. And then we had a Marvel superhero hologram make his return. It was an insane edition of Collision.
Look, okay, so I watched, you said earlier, I don't know why this show's on TV. And I really don't think that's fair because you say a lot of the time, I watch wrestling for the wrestling, call me crazy. And I thought this was a really good wrestling show. But I'm not always in the mood to watch just a really good wrestling show because there's a lot of that. Mm. I came home from work last night and I was like, I was kind of wired. I was like, I just want to watch some wrestling before I go to bed. And I threw on Collision. And I really enjoyed it. And I think they have made more of an effort the last few weeks of putting stuff that you kind of do need to see if you want to keep up with all the stories. And I think Collision had lost that for a bit. But stuff like the Harley Cameron, Mercedes Moné thing, that was a big thing. That was a major point in that feud before going to Grand Slam. And I thought all the wrestling, I thought Carl Fletcher and Carl Fletcher and Mark Briscoe at the end of the show was really good. And even the kind of the triple trios match was with Garcia 2.0 and Undisputed Kingdom and all those guys. I thought that was really good. I thought for wrestling, this was great. But on the other hand, I'm watching it and I'm going, yeah, for fans who like wrestling, this show is an entertaining watch. But I think we've seen what the ceiling is of people who like that, and I'm also watching it, and I'm seeing people out there who do just look indie, and that's fine. That is some of what AEW started off as, was like we take the broken toys, right? We take people from all backgrounds. We have, you had the likes of Sunny Kiss and Nyla Rose on the show, who you wouldn't necessarily get on WWE. But I think when WWE is being so hot and you're seeing just, the production level is so much higher, the stars look like stars. And I think that is always going to attract more of the masses than this. This is a show that attracts the niche wrestling fans of wrestling. And I think it's good. But for the most part, it's not must watch. A really good wrestling match isn't must watch. Things like Harley Cameron Mercedes, if you want to know what the big matches are, they're the things you've got to be watching. So I think Collision is making the right moves. I think maybe focusing on having it more as the Lucha show is cool. I watched it with a different pair of eyes. I didn't watch this, whereas often I'm kind of skimming through, I'm setting up the stream, I'm watching it before we start this show to try and get the good bits. Whereas last night, I kind of threw it on, computer away, phone away, just sat and watched. And I was very entertained.
But you say, like, the must watch, like, if there's stuff from Dynamite, which is watched a whole lot more, like we talked about last week, that there was a Collision up against the Royal Rumble. I think they had their lowest rating ever of like 100,000 people. It's like, yeah, because any wrestling fan was probably watching the Royal Rumble. Whereas the same will be this week. It'll be like 300,000 viewers or whatever. We don't necessarily care about ratings and stuff like that. We're fans and we want to see like just good stuff. But when they show me something that is supposed to be like must watch, like half the time it isn't. Dynamite doesn't feel must watch. What I'm saying is, like, take the stuff that, like, if you took the good stuff from Collision and the good stuff from Dynamite and had one show, they'd be sick. They'd be great. But right now it's like some shit on Dynamite and some shit thrown together on Collision. And it's like, not everybody watches, like, the people it shows. Not everybody's watching that other show, because you might tune in and you see hologram and maybe it's not for you, and you're like, oh, okay, I don't not for me or whatever. And I see why it would be hard for them to find what their like audience is. Now, I said, like, why is this show on TV? But it's like, there is some good stuff from it. Every week there's at least like one good match or one good thing. And they've had weeks where like it was better than Dynamite sometimes. Like, I'm like, it sounds like you like this edition of Collision more than Dynamite potentially. Like, there was some more things that were more memorable. Like you said, if there's a match, sometimes a silly segment can be better than that. But I still don't think it's must watch territory. It still feels like this is an extra show. You might get some good stuff on it and help promote Grand Slam. But
in that case, none of the TVs must watch then.
Right now they're not. Their shows, I mean, for
both companies, if all you're caring about is the pay-per-views, you can just watch these pay-per-views, and they're not like, it's wrestling. They're not the most complicated stories to get your head around after watching a quick 2-minute recap. Like, they're being paid. They're not going to pull this show. They're getting paid to do this.
They're getting paid a lot. It's just, there's not a lot of people at these shows. There's not a lot of, like, we have friends who go to these shows and like, they're telling us like, wow, there's not a lot of people at this show. Like, look at the way they shoot the shows. Like, at one point, when does the levee break of like, they need to figure out? Because like, you can give people tickets. You could invite schools or, people, companies, give out free tickets. Like, even
I think they've started doing better of the venues. I think they are picking better venues for the most part for these sizes and stuff. yeah, as I said, I just think what AEW aims for is it's not a mainstream audience. And
right.
I don't think they will get there now. I think there was a point where it was attracting people because WWE was bad. But I think the people who like watching great wrestling, I think they are still being served that. And I think maybe there's a little bit too much doom and gloom. As I said, I was in the mood to watch good wrestling last night, and I certainly got my fix. Whereas I'm not always in the mood for that, and therefore AEW doesn't always cater to me because I think the stories are weak a lot of the time, and especially your main title picture is very weak. So they're the issues for me, and kind of I thought Collision was better because apart from one Moxie promo, it really wasn't about that. It was just about, hey, let's have Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe go out and put on a banger of a match.
And there was some
let's
good
have
wrestling. Yeah.
Harley Cameron with a ventriloquist puppet and a guitar and sing a song. And it was great. Like it's weird because I think I don't watch Collision all the time. And sometimes it feels a bit of an obligation to watch before this show. And I think maybe because I watched it in a different headspace, I did enjoy it. But as I said, I don't need to watch great wrestling matches day in, day out. But so I need a bit of the in-between stuff as well.
I mean, that's where WWE's
and WWE serves you for that. I think.
WWE fixes you up with these characters and larger than life storylines and all that kind of stuff. AEW still delivers like night and day of the wrestling in this company. The freedom these athletes have is clearly like open because like the wrestling itself, bell to bell, is always better in AEW, but they're definitely lacking on the storytelling. I still like. They're in a bit of a lull, but going ahead, looking at Grand Slam, like I'm hearing that this might be an issue with some Aussies out there with the trains and the subways or whatever. I don't know what the deal with that is.
So apparently I heard that they changed venues and it's quite a lot further away from the first venue. So people had already booked hotels and stuff close to the original venue.
Right.
Australia is huge. So people traveling in for this event, then not offering refunds for that, but then offering 2-for-1 deals. And it's like, come on.
Jeez.
So I can see a lot of Aussies being pissed off about it. That being said, I think there's some good stuff on this show. And I think it'll be a pretty great Grand Slam.
So next week, Saturday night, the 15th is when this is airing, right?
Yes.
So we will not be going live after Vengeance Day, but instead Sunday, the 16th, we will be here 2 p.m. on Post Wrestling, and we will review Vengeance Day. But I'm gonna try to squeeze this show in. Like it's gonna be a lot.
We might need to be a bit later than 2, maybe.
Yeah,
but because I would like to chat about this show as well. So
when is this airing? Like this airs Saturday night.
This will be Saturday. Like it's after the NBA game, so probably around 10-ish. I think. I'm not sure. I'm not. Sports,
so follow our socials to see when we announce, because like maybe we'll go live at like 3 instead or something just to try to fit this in, because I genuinely think this looks like a stacked show. And I know AEW haters and the lull of how we're feeling, but like on paper this has my attention. You got Mariah May versus Toni Storm. I think we both said Toni should take it. Either way, that's a big main event. You got Ospreay and Omega teaming up to take on Fletcher and Takeshita. Like that alone sells the show for me.
Okada... what are we saying there? I reckon Takeshita gets another. I could see Takeshita getting another pin on Kenny to set up that singles match.
Yeah. I kind of think the Omega Powers win it just to like get them over, like Kenny returning and first time teaming and everything. Yep. But maybe we get a rematch of this down the line. Either way, like this has all my attention. Like this is the match for me. This is the show. This is the match I'm watching the show for 100%. But the other stuff doesn't look too bad. I mean, you got Okada taking on Buddy Matthews. That's crazy. That's
going to be an awesome match.
Hell yeah.
I liked and didn't like their segment on Collision, the kind of sit down interview. Buddy Murphy basically being an AEW fan going, Okada, I fucking hate this version of you. Can you please just be like Tokyo Dome Okada against me in Australia? Because right now you're a bitch. And then Okada's like, no, you're a bitch. I'm like, yeah. But the match is going to be great. And if we have a motivated Okada for this, obviously Buddy Matthews is going to be motivated. This is a huge match for him in Australia.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be pretty great.
Yeah. So like already that sounds good. Then you got Jay White and Cope taking on Death Riders, meaning Moxley and Claudio. So in a Brisbane brawl. Very nice.
Yeah, like I'm sure this crowd will get behind Jay White.
True.
It's
close enough to us. Yeah,
I hate this whole thing, to be honest.
So yeah, that's probably the least hyped match for this show, and it features your big stars. But and then also Mercedes versus Harley for the TBS title.
Yeah, I think Mercedes wins that because I see it being champ v champ at All In.
Right.
But I don't know. After last night, I'm like, man, I'd prefer to see Harley win this and Mariah retain because if it's gonna be one or the other. But I think it's gonna be, you give her a few like big hope spots that this crowd can get into. Yeah. I think Harley Cameron's gonna be made after this, and if she can keep improving in ring like we've seen her do, she could be a huge star in this company.
I think I'm really excited about that show. Like, again, there's a few matches that I want my wrestling fix and I know I will get out of, but then you got the stuff with Harley, you got the stuff with Tony and the hometown heroes and everything. And it does sound like maybe some of the diehard fans who were buying tickets day one and booking hotels and all this kind of got a little screwed over. And Tony Khan looks like he's backtracking and saying that, this was always supposed to be just a TV show. It's like, I don't know if that was necessarily the case. But I hope that the fans do show up, are engaged, are cheering along, and have a good time regardless. I know it might suck with not telling you the time it was supposed to start at, to the venue, to the trains and transportation. However, if you are going, send us some notes, send us your feedback on it, and have a fun time. They've never been over there, so this is the first time for some of these characters to perform in front of Australian fans who maybe have never been traveling to see this. So that is always still a cool thing. And I know the circumstances don't necessarily sound so great. So what I'm trying to say is any Aussies out there, please enjoy if you can. Just have a good time. Have a good time. I know it might suck. It's like if that all happened to me, I would be like pretty cheesed too. But like
get all the moaning out your system. It's good to vent, let it out, and then next Saturday just have a blast.
Have a few Victoria bitters, chill.
Have some shoeies.
Yeah, exactly. What are those? What are the Tim Tams? I don't know. Whatever you Aussies do. Vegemite, enjoy it. Let us know if you are going. We'd love some feedback from the show. But there you go. We've had a long show here today. I know everyone out there is excited to go watch the Super Bowl. So world, get out of your hair.
Birds.
Go Birds. Go Swifties. Go whoever you want. Appreciate everyone out there listening. If you're in the chat, drop a frog. We appreciate all our listeners, our tadpoles out there. Go to poisonrana.ca for everything that we do. Give us a follow on our Instagram. And if you are going to Chamber, join us for the lock-in. All the details are up on our social media. So go give us a follow. And if you haven't, hey, it's only $5 to become a patron, to become a friend on our Patreon. And you get access to all of our shows, our best match evers, our retro NXT reviews, our wrestling reviews, and our champ is here. So all the podcasts, and it's only $5. So if you haven't given us a shot, hey, what are you waiting for? What are you
waiting for?
Exactly. Hey, we can't do this without you guys. Really appreciate everyone in the chat. I see Maddie. I see Frank. We saw Josh Alexander earlier in the night. So
shout out Josh.
Yeah, great guy. We appreciate everyone out there, and we can't do without you. And we love you. And thank you. And have fun at the Super Bowl. And we'll chat with you on Tuesday on Post Wrestling, and then to be determined the time we go live with our Vengeance Day and Grand Slam chat next Sunday. So follow us to get details on that. But it'll probably be around 3 or 4 or something like that. But thank you, everybody. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And go Birds.
Ahoy! Oh.